breaks the tackle. He's 10. He's touchdown. Cook's going to throw the deep ball, and Burton past the defense. Touchdown, Luther Burton.
Milrow going to run it again. Got a lane. Kicked into turbo. Milrow. Goodbye. Touchdown, Bama.
This is Chasing the Natty, a college fantasy football podcast. All right, good evening, everyone. This is Jared Palmgren, host of the Chasing the Natty podcast. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Sunday evening here. We are back with another live college fantasy football draft show. We already got some people in the chat. For those of you who don't know what it is we're doing here, as I kind of mentioned, we are going to do a live college fantasy draft. That'll kind of drive a lot of our discussion tonight, who we're taking, what kind of strategies we're thinking. But also, this is a great time for you guys to reach out to us via the chat right over there on the right side of your screen and let us know what you want us to talk about. I have on today with me Mr. Justin Leo, aka VolumePigs at VolumePigs.com. You can find a link to his stuff down in the description. Basically, it's become a very famous face among the CFF community for his extremely well-written player profiles and articles that he has been constantly putting out. We are ecstatic to have you on tonight, Justin. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. You might have been following the updates I've been posting on Twitter. I've eaten a lot of food over the last 48 to 72 hours. So if I pass out mid-draft, don't be too shocked. But it feels good. This feels familiar. This feels right. I've been in the audience watching your shows in the off season and just having to suffer through these third-rate analysts, Nate, Marquise, Felix last week. Who had ever heard of these guys? I don't even know who these people are. But it feels good now.
I do not endorse this message, by the way, Felix and Nate. I just want to throw that out there.
No, I mean that wholeheartedly. And it feels good that the A-team is back. And I know that the audience feels the same way. So, I'm excited to get it going tonight.
It's going to be an absolute blast. Like I said, we'll have the draft. Justin, I know you got the 101 pick. I'm at the tail end of the draft, so we actually have some time between our picks to discuss who we're taking this week. Me and Felix are right next to each other in the draft last week, and that made for some very interesting timing in terms of how quickly we had to explain some of our picks. But again, just a reminder to everybody
how quickly we had to explain some of our picks.
Oh, I think I'm coming through on your side there, Justin.
Yeah. My bad.
You are good. You're good. Again, everybody in the chat, again, appreciate all of you guys for joining us today. Again, make sure you leave us lots of questions throughout the night as things come up, as players get drafted, and you're wondering, like, why did that player go? Or why is this player being taken ahead of this player? Leave those in the chat. We are more than happy to discuss those things. In addition, you guys there in the chat can help us out greatly by leaving some likes. We're already at 14 likes. Guys, we hit 50 last week. I think we can get up to 60. So let's go ahead and bring in some of our friends. Let's go ahead and reach out and share to all of our college football buddies. Let's get us trending on the sports page. Let's get us in front of the eyeballs of people who might be interested in playing college fantasy, but quite frankly, they don't even know that it exists. So we are here to have a great time. And yeah, I think, let's see, we got about 6 minutes before the draft. I'm trying to see, do we got any questions in the chat? Well, we got one from Chris Moxley here, Justin. He is asking, what's the status of your food baby? You've been true to your name with the amount of food you put away this weekend.
Yeah, well, I definitely embodied the volume pig this weekend. Food baby, actually, I feel pretty good. Like, I made sure to get in a very intense bike ride on Friday in preparation, just, get some exercise, burn some calories. I actually feel pretty good, pretty nimble. I was doing a lot of walking in between stations, getting to the food, coming back to my apartment, rinse and repeat. So I feel pretty good. It could have been worse, I think. So, but we'll see. I still have some leftovers, so maybe by tonight it could be a problem.
Adam Sullivan, I really appreciate the reminder. I should absolutely go over the draft settings for everybody so that you guys are aware of what we're doing tonight. Tonight is a pretty standard college fantasy draft, and again, the coming weeks we'll kind of switch some things up a little bit, change the settings, but for tonight, we're going 2 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex spots, and then 30 deep roster spots. It is a best ball style format. We've all chipped in $5 to participate. Winner takes all. Winner takes all. In addition to that, let's see, scoring formats, 4-point passing, touchdowns, full point PPR, no tight end premium, things like that. So I'm trying to think, Justin, any other draft settings you think I should probably bring up?
No, and I'm actually glad that you brought those up because I forgot to look at the settings beforehand. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So again, probably the biggest ones, 4-point passing touchdown and full point PPR will definitely change the way some people are drafting. Are there position limits? No, actually, I do not put position limits on my drafts for the most part. The only time I ever do that is like early on when we were doing like the way too early draft because I didn't want some people, Justin, just drafting only running backs. It's just, again, to me, people who play CFF, I think there's so many players out there that even in a 30-round draft that like, if you waited till the very end to take running back, there's still probably some guys that are going to be okay for you, right? It's up to you as an adult playing this game to decide how you want to shake out your roster. So I guess, Justin, like I'll ask you, like you go into a 30-round draft, what's your kind of positional breakdown? I personally am like 6 quarterbacks, 10 running backs, 10 wide receivers, 4 tight ends, maybe plus or minus 1 here or there, depending on how I'm drafting. But what do you do?
I don't know that I really have like a set level of like parameters for in terms of quantities of each. I mean, I generally like to have at least 5 quarterbacks. I think when we were doing our best ball drafts with the other CGC people, I landed on 5 QBs in each one. But that wasn't really like a like by design. It just kind of happened that way. I think with tight ends as well, I try to take as little as possible. That's because that's just another position where I think it's kind of a crapshoot, and I don't really want to waste too many spots taking tight ends when I know I'm gonna strike out on most of my draft picks anyways at that position. So try to just grab one, hope that it works, or a couple and hope that it works. And you know me, I mean, I like to load up on the RBs, but it actually kind of is inverted. Like if I use a lot of my early picks on RBs, I might have like 8 of the first 10 rounds or something like that on RBs. I'm going to end up with a lot more wide receivers probably towards the end because I actually feel really good about the running back room at that point. No need to keep drafting more after that, right? So.
No, for sure. That makes a ton of sense, I would say. Let's see. I'm kind of keeping up with the chat. Let's see. Ryan says, if you really want to try this out, see how this kind of best ball draft goes. Oh, yeah. Ryan in the chat, if any of y'all are interested, he does slow versions of these drafts. Again, they kind of vary between 4-hour and 2-hour time picks. Again, we are doing live tonight, so we will have 1 minute per pick tonight. It is going to be very, very fast-paced for us. And so, again, we got about 2 minutes here before the draft kind of gets started here. Again, I haven't seen any questions dropped in the chat. You guys seem like a very incurious bunch here tonight. So if you got any burning questions that you might have for like CFF or any kind of offenses you might want us to go over, any players that you've seen recently that you want to get our opinions on, please go ahead and drop those in the chats. Again, as we're going throughout the night, make sure you take a look at the draft board. If you see any names that are interesting to you, go ahead and let us know. Again, I don't have the actual timer up on the screen, so it's hard for me to tell exactly when this draft. Normally, I'm like perfectly going to whenever it goes or whenever it gets started, and like right now I don't have the timer. I'm trying to start it, and it's like can't resume the draft until it has started. So we got less than 1 minute left.
Okay. I keep nervously looking over, thinking like, oh, like did I forget that the draft has started and missed my pick? But.
All right, 2 questions from Luke and Clinton real quick. One, Luke Probosco asks, if you could know the stats for one guy, who would that be? To me, it'd be Darius Taylor. 1st round pick. And man, like if I could know that whether or not he's going to get injured or not before everything, and like how much is his ceiling going to be this year, that's the player that if I could pick, he would be the one.
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of players that I could probably put. I don't know.
Well, you're now on the clock, VP, so we'll go ahead and let you get going. VP's got the 101 tonight. I have the 110. Again, we're pretty spread out here, so we'll let you answer those questions after you put in your pick here for Ollie Gordon. All right. Going to Ollie Gordon over Ashton GNT.
I know.
Gotta ask, man. What do you see over between Ollie versus Ashton?
Yeah, look, and I know like the graphic of the show has GT, so it would have been perfect if I drafted him first. But no, I mean, I don't know. Like with Boise State, there's other running backs there. There's Dubard, now Sire Gaines. I've been seeing articles being put out about him. I don't know. I just don't know. There's other running backs in the fold there. I could have gone either way. It was 50-50. It wasn't really like a heavy lean to Gordon. So
There's no bad pick between those two. Again, what's the old saying? Like you can't win your draft in round one, but you can certainly lose it. Well, I don't think you're gonna lose it by taking either Ollie Gordon or Ashton GNT, two guys that were just far and away compared to every other running back that was out there last year. Royal is going off there at 1-4. He usually makes it into the tail end of the first round, makes it into the second round a little bit. Definitely a bit of an early pick there, but I know Purple Rain. He's a smart guy. So you got thoughts there?
I know for a fact that Purple Rain is going to go off the board on some of these picks because he has his own rankings, and I've talked to him about some of it, and some of the players he has much higher than consensus, some others much lower. So I know he's going to go off the board on some of these picks.
So again, we'll go back to going back to the question we had before the draft started there, VP. If you could have one guy who you knew the stats for before the season started, who would you pick?
I just don't. Okay, I don't know. I'm going to choose just like a random player. I mean, your pick with Darius Taylor is a good one because of like the injury history there. I mean, you could put any sort of player in that category. I guess maybe a player like Denzel Boston, where it's like, I don't know, he's such an enigma, and now his ADP is kind of, it's getting to sort of, getting to a point where maybe the ADPs outstripped his value. But that's a player where it's like, okay, I mean, if I knew he's the wide receiver one for Fish and their offense functions, it's like, well, he'd be like a first round pick. But with all the uncertainty there, you can still get him at a discount now. But I think in a lot of drafts, he's getting pushed up into like round 12, round 13 these days.
Oh, he got pushed up into round 7 in one of the best ball drafts I did recently. To me, I'm out at that price. I don't think I can do it that high. Yeah. Clint did ask you who's your pick, Justin, for winning the Stanley Cup.
Okay, well, this is embarrassing because I am Canadian, but I don't know who's playing in the Stanley Cup. Probably my dad's watching. Is the game on right now? I bet my dad's watching. Who's playing? I don't know.
I honestly could not tell you for the life of me. I sometimes I kind of keep up with hockey a little bit this year. Again, I've been more focused on the NCAA baseball. Baseball playoffs a little bit more.
Too, right?
Yeah, that's going on right now. And Georgia and NC State, we're going back and forth right now in our series. We got walloped yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, Justin. Georgia lost 18-1.
I'm basically to the point in my life where it's just college football. Like it's because it's a full-time job basically to cover it now. So
alrighty. I want to do something, but I know for a fact I cannot trust it. With Mike and Clint sitting there on the tail there. So I am probably going to go ahead and just, let's see. You know what? I was talking about him. We're going to go for the upside. Let's go Darius Taylor, and hopefully we'll get something to help me out here. Again, him falling to 110. Like, if we knew he was healthy for the entire season, he'd be a guy going 1-3, right? Honestly, if we knew for a fact he'd be healthy, he'd probably be a guy that might challenge Ollie Gordon or Ashton GNT for that top spot right there.
Yeah, I'd have no problem with that. I'm pretty sure I took him like third overall on at least one of our best ball drafts before. So, to get him at 10, I think that's a pretty good value.
So let's see, any other questions going on right now while Mike and Clint are making their picks. Ben Baylor Bear asks, are we convinced that Jaheim White is RB1 for West Virginia? I feel like if Donaldson is healthy, there will be a split. How do you kind of feel about that backfield, Justin? Yeah. I will go ahead and say, Ben, we talk extensively about pretty extensively about Jaheim White on tomorrow's CTN. So I'll save a lot of my thoughts on that for tomorrow's show. But Justin, while you're here, man, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's probably a split if Donaldson's healthy. I think the question is like, is Donaldson going to be healthy? He's not like healthy right now, right? Over spring, I think he was missing time. So I don't know, like if he's going to be ready to go back for the season. But I don't think they're just going to phase him out. Like if he's ready to go, they're going to have both players involved. It might just be a very run-heavy attack. Like it might be Garrett Green running a lot, and might be both those running backs running a lot.
I already hate drafting on the turn with Mike and Clint because I had 4 running backs in my queue, and all 4 of them got taken there back to back to back. So I guess I'll go ahead and you know what? I'm gonna take my guy Pafele Ashlock there at Hawaii. 120 targets. Hopefully that offense gets even better this year. I'm feeling it.
I like that pick. This is going to be a tough draft, as I was saying in the preview, because like we have a pretty good group in here. I mean, we got other CFF experts in here, so it's going to be a tough one. But yeah, to Ben's question, I don't see them phasing Donaldson out, right? I mean, he's going to be involved if he's healthy. So at worst, I think it's a split for both of them. If one of them gets injured, of course, then the other one should be good value. But if they're both healthy, it's probably a split.
No, for sure. I'll hide my kind of thoughts on it and everything, but like, White is one of those guys where all the advanced metrics state that if he gets the opportunity, he is a guy that will be on the same level as like Ollie Gordon or Ashton GNT, just because his efficiency numbers are just off the chart with what he was able to do last year. Now, again, a lot of them just aren't sustainable, right? Like, again, 7.7 yards per carry, 25 yards per catch. Like, you're not going to really expect that to be like something he's able to do, for 12 games again this season, especially now that he's a bit more of a known quantity. But even still, like, his breakaway percentage was one of the best in the country last year. I think, like, again, Donaldson is good enough, but also, like, I again, a bit of a hint as what I say tomorrow. Like, if you do have a guy like Jaheim White, right?
Yeah.
Even if you have a guy like Donaldson, if White's popping off 7-8 yards per carry, you're going to keep giving him the ball regardless, even if you have Donaldson there who can get you 4 or 5 yards per carry. Because, like, why not hand it to the guy that can almost get you a first down every time he touches the ball? That's just a completely, not an unfair, it is an unfair advantage in a game, right? So if that happens, that's where I could see them maybe phasing out Donaldson. But for right now, again, there's a reason why White is going RB27. His upside's insane if he gets the opportunity, but the split's pretty clear, right?
Yeah. Maybe if like Donaldson transfers out next season, or if one of them transfers out, they can sort of be a pretty valuable offseason target. But
let's see. Ryan asks us, so let's say easy number total season points. How do we know? How do we suggest Salter and Brown are worth round 1 picks at quarterback compared to all other quarterbacks?
Sorry, this question is, how do we know they're worth?
Yeah, how do like Salter, Brown pretty consistently go off in the first round. Gabriel sneaks in there every once in a while. What makes them so special compared to, that next tier quarterbacks that I personally think shouldn't go off until like the 4th, 5th round, maybe at the earliest?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. You might be asking the wrong person, because like I never draft quarterback in the first round. I'm up here.
You are?
Let's see. Right. I have to make 2 picks, actually. Perfect.
Well,
right.
You took 2 of my favorite guys in this range.
Well, yeah, I did it just to hurt you, Jared. Yeah, for those 3 QBs in particular, I don't know. So for me, I do have them valued higher than all the other QBs, but I don't personally ever draft QB in the first round of like a regular CFF draft. So maybe I'm not the right person to ask, but in each case, like Byron Brown and Salter were elite last year, and they returned in the same situation, the same coaches, basically the same sort of situation, basically in terms of system and everything else. Dylan Gabriel, he was elite last year. Obviously, he's moving, but like the new system he's in was really good last year for Bo Nix, right? And he's got other good wide receivers there. So like of the 3, I have Gabriel ranked last just because there's more uncertainty. But with the first 2, there's not really much uncertainty from last year to this year. And they were already really good last year. Like they were some of the best QBs last year, and not much has really changed. So you sort of have a certainty there where there's not that much risk with Byron Brown and Salter.
No,
RJ Harvey in the 3rd. I was wondering where he would go, because like since the Penny Boone news, I don't know where people value him. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, it's good. I think Harvey is a good one to bring up. Like I think that when Boone first transferred to UCF, I think people are overreacting to that a little bit. Like, yeah, maybe he takes away a few of the touchdowns, but like Harvey was still a beast in between 20s last year. And again, he's the kind of guy that could rip off 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown on any given play. Like, that's the reason why they fed him so much last year. Like, his volume wasn't actually the greatest in the world. He's just so dang efficient a lot of times. And, like, Boone really, again, was a journeyman this offseason, right? He was a guy that was he went to Louisville, then he's supposed to go to Kentucky, then he couldn't land there. He really seemed like a guy that was just kind of wherever he could end up landing, that's where he was going to go. And so he lands at UCF. I still think Harvey's still going to be their clear number one guy. He was able to do things well with Richardson and DeMarcus Bowman there last year still. Like, Boone will be involved probably a little bit more than those guys, but, like, I think Harvey's absolutely still worth a third-round pick there. I think Boone's impact in that backfield, people are overestimating quite a bit. Because some people are saying, like, oh, he should drop to, like, the 4th, 5th round. I'm like, no, I think that's a bit of an overreaction.
Well, to be fair, I mean, 4th round wouldn't be that bad. But are you not concerned at all about just like the quantity of other straws in the milkshake there? Because I mean, KJ Jefferson might be taking red zone touchdowns. Then you have Penny Boone as well. So
I mean, Harvey scored like what 16 touchdowns last year. Like,
yeah,
if he lost like 2 or 3 of those, like, or 4 on the year, like, he'd still be a pretty incredible back. Like, he had 1,500 yards last year. Like, people kind of forget that part of, like, what RJ Harvey is able to do. Like, he was not like a Blake Corum where he was getting like 22 touchdowns on like 800-900 yards or barely hitting 1,000 yards. Like, no, he was a guy that was just putting up incredible production throughout the year. Just happened to have a pretty good amount of touchdowns to go along with it.
Yeah, he was extremely efficient. Kyle Monunga, he goes in the 3rd round these days, eh?
Yeah, you made a convincing case pretty early on. People were like, well, you and Chris K, because Chris K kind of pointed out, like, Rutgers' schedule is really, really nice this year for a Big Ten team. And so, like, with Monunga there, soft schedule, you no longer have Gavin Wimsatt taking, what was it, like 10 touchdowns last year, I think Wimsatt had. So, like, Monunga should have more goal line work there. He's in for a pretty big year. All right, I'm on the board. Which guy is most likely to make it back to me? Probably none of them, so I'm just going to take the guy I want. I love me some Will Pauling in the 3rd round. I don't like the fact that I haven't grabbed a running back to this point yet, but I think I can load up on a few guys here that I haven't gotten a ton of shares of here. We'll see what kind of makes it back to me here between Mike and Clint. They're not going to be nice to me at all. Ryan also asked, does the OG NFL model work in CFF? Go RB early? Well, Justin, you are the man for that question. Going RB early, is that the way to go?
That's the way I usually go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a premium position, right? I mean, there's 134 FBS teams. Not all of them have a bell cow. Probably less than half. Usually, it's like 50 or so.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a league where there's 11 other people. Depending on how many roster spots you have. But if you have like 6 or 7 of those bell cows, you're just in such an advantageous position. But more importantly, I think it's the other positions. I just find you can get valuable players later on. Like, you can find good wide receivers on the wire. You can find good quarterbacks. Tight end is just is crap show. So for me, it's just like I just want to solidify the one position that I know it's very hard to figure out later. And the rest of the positions, like, if you can just tread water for the first couple of weeks of your season, not lose all your games, by week 3, you'll assemble like a juggernaut of a team because you'll pick up wide receivers, good quarterbacks, and it'll just come together like a puzzle piece. That's been my experience, at least.
No, I honestly completely agree with you for the most part. Like, I typically in these drafts, I try to have like maybe 7 of my 10 running backs by the time I reach the halfway point of my draft. Like, I'll pick up a few upside picks later on. Speaking of which, I'm on the clock. I'm gonna go ahead and take LaQuint Allen here. Again, I don't want to get too far without taking too many running backs here. I've had a couple of drafts where I don't get a running back until like my first running back until like the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and those are drafts I typically don't really love because as this is a deep year at running back, but man, like once it dries up, boy, it gets pretty rough out there pretty quickly. And like you mentioned, Justin, that's not a position that really pops up during the season nearly as much as like a wide receiver or even tight end, right?
No, not at all. And you're completely right too about the drop off. Like after the 4th round, there's not that many names. Like I think there was the draft that we were doing with Gridiron Scholar, where I think I took LJ Martin, and it might have been in the 5th round. Like it was something crazy like that. Now that's absurd, obviously, based on his ADP. I was a little bit distracted at the time, but that's just an excuse. I still love the pick. when I was looking that. Oh, did I cut out? Sorry.
No, you cut out for a second there. We're all good. I'm gonna back this up a little bit.
Replace a little bit somebody. Jaden Daniels.
Undo last pick. Hey Wood, hope you're listening, buddy. You need to make your pick. This is your mulligan. But anyway, what were you saying, Justin?
Yeah, well, I was just saying, like, I think I drafted LJ Martin very high in one draft, and it was more just a function of like after the fourth round, I didn't really know. There just wasn't really anybody standing out to me, and I was just like, well, I'm just gonna pick a player that I like. Because really, I mean, it's running back is deep, but as you can see in this draft, like people are spending a lot of picks in the first 4 rounds on running backs. I'm not the only one who spent the first 3 picks on running backs, right? So
yeah, I'm looking at Mike Bainbridge's draft right now. He went 3 running backs to start, which this is a strategy that I like quite a bit. Again, getting 2 guys that are like super like pretty safe guys, and then that third round, man, there's a couple of guys in there like Harvey. Like, again, he hasn't come off the board yet, but like CJ Baxter, if you got 2 great running backs already, Sawchuck's another great one where like you got 2 great running backs already, and you go for that third home run swing on that third guy, like take a guy with a bit more risk, like Harvey, like Baxter, like Sawchuck, and then all of a sudden you got 3 dominant running backs there in the first 4 rounds. That's a strategy that I personally have enjoyed quite a bit. I just personally haven't been able, the last couple of drafts, been able to load up on running backs as much as I want to. Let's see. We got a couple more names coming off the board here. Scatabo and Lacey. Those are probably the 2 earliest picks, or the 2 earliest I've seen both of those guys go. At least with Lacey, with somebody not named John Lobb. I know John Lobb's willing to basically auto pick Kyron Lacey in the 5th round pretty much every single time. But I also know Madden is an LSU fan, so I also understand that pick quite a bit. Let's see, more questions in the chat. Clay Mountcastle here asks, this is a fun one. What's the most intriguing quarterback battle left for you, Justin? Again, he lists Western Kentucky. UNLV comes to mind for me between Sluka and Haj Malik Williams.
I'll give you one that's like a little bit off the board, and it's only top of mind because we're in Nate's Dynasty League right now, and I've solidified like 2 of the 3 contenders on my team, which is Tulsa. Year 2 of Kevin Wilson's regime. So Kevin Wilson, formerly the OC at Ohio State, coached a lot of good QBs there, notably Justin Fields. He really likes dual threat guys, and last year they just had a lot of injuries. Like they've settled on the starter, and then he got injured week 1. My pick's coming up here, so I might cut out in a second.
You're on the board.
I am on the board. Let me see. I think if I wasn't live, I probably wouldn't draft this player here, but that's okay.
Woo!
Yeah, a bit high.
No, again, it's funny because again, another guy that we talk about on CTN tomorrow, where again, I think his ADP rise has been just a little too fast for me recently. I don't think I can stomach taking him there in the 4th round.
Receiver. Yeah, he's not normally a receiver I would want to draft there, but I think it's fine. I don't hate the pick. Now I'm just thinking maybe deciding between a couple QBs. I'll go with Garrett Green.
Okay.
So Tulsa's QB room. So like they now have, so Cardell Williams is nursing a shoulder injury, but when he was good last year, he was actually really good. Like he had a couple of really big games. Kirk Francis is like a local walk-on. He's a true freshman who like became a starter down the stretch last year, and he actually wasn't that bad. And then they brought in I think it was Cooper Lagasse from Utah State.
They did.
And that's the one. Yeah. I don't know if he's gonna be the starter. I mean, obviously they brought him in to compete. Well, I don't know. That's just an intriguing offense to me. Like they have other cool pieces. They've got Camden Benjamin, which people are already drafting him. Some people really like him. And if you think he's going to have a big year, you got to sort of think of like, okay, well, who's going to be throwing him those passes?
Oh, his volume at the end of the year was just absolutely insane.
Yeah, he had a really great connection with Kirk Francis. So Francis was the QB when that was happening, but I assume whoever's the QB is going to feature him. But yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting offense. In year 2, there could be a big improvement there.
The team that I'm kind of thinking of right now, like in addition to Western Kentucky and UNLV, I think those are the kind of the 2 biggest ones. USC, kind of, if you count that. Again, I don't really know how much that actually is a competition, or if that's more something that could change like during the season. But the other TUL team, Tulane, right, between Ty Thompson and Kai Horton, I think people kind of assume that Ty Thompson's going to win that job. I'm kind of leaning that way a little bit as well, but like from all intents and purposes, it sounds like coming out of the spring, like it's a pretty dead even battle over there, and that I think could be a very interesting spot. I mean, Tulane again, they play in the AAC. John Summerall was able to improve Troy's offense last year. Now, again, they weren't anything spectacular. I think they were 56th in the country in points per game. I've been having this conversation with CF Budge on Twitter about just how high we should project Tulane's offense this year. But regardless, like if you think they're going to do well, like you're going to want to know who that starting quarterback is, because I think both Ty Thompson and Kyle Horton have some dual threat ability to them. I like the weapons that they brought in over there. Obviously, between Mario Williams, Shaz Preston, sound like they're going to be the top two guys. They bring back Alex Bowman. I'm a big fan, big fan. All right, let's see. What direction do I want to go with here? Dang, a lot of running backs that I typically see kind of fall to me here did not make it back to me. Looks like you're very much. Oh, and you take Brandon Presley. I was just thinking about taking him because I was really hoping I would get 120 target guys, but looks like that was not to be. Dadgum you, A-Wood. I wish you would go back to auto picking so I would steal him next time. That's a joke. I love the fact you're here, A-Wood. I'll go with another running back here. Let's go with the upside pick. We'll go Jaheim White. This is right around the range he typically goes. A third running back here. I got two pretty solidified guys. Now, again, Taylor's got some risk given the injury history between him and just Minnesota running backs in general. But like, if Taylor stays healthy, if Allen stays healthy, and White stays healthy, I think I got three pretty solid running backs there, especially in best ball format.
Yeah, that's another thing. And I love getting Taylor in the 10th. I think that's a really good value. I mean, yeah, there's the injury risk there, but I don't know. I mean, I don't have him ranked that far off of Gordon and Genty this year. So
Ben asks, is there anyone we can draft from Northwestern? This is kind of a random question. Well, Ben, Cam Porter's still there.
yeah,
Maybe this is finally the year that he can get it up and running over there. Now, I don't think I've seen a single Northwestern player. I'd have to take a look at our guide, but I don't think anybody's written the Northwestern team profile yet, and I don't think anybody's really excited to really write that profile. So, all right, Mike, come on, Mike, give me a break here. Let me have my guy. Mike.
Specific name,
Mike. There's a specific name that I want. Yeah. Give me. Come on, Mike. Give me a break. Give me a break, please. Okay, well, he took my other guy that I typically like, but I'll take KJ Jefferson as my consolation prize here. Yeah, I love Jackson Arnold, and again, Iamaleava and Arnold is a great back-to-back pick there from Mike. I know for a back Mike likes Jefferson as well, so I was really, really hoping that he wouldn't pick Jefferson there. I'm feeling pretty happy with Jefferson. Obviously, again, a dual threat quarterback in a Gus Malzahn system is great any day of the week as long as they can stay healthy. JRP the last 2 years is a guy that like hasn't finished in the top 12, but if you look at his stats like throughout the year, when he was healthy, he was putting up top 12 quarterback stats. He just couldn't stay healthy for the longest time. Maybe KJ's the same way. I'm hoping not, obviously. But I love him here as my first quarterback, especially, again, best ball format. Why not?
Yeah, why not? For sure. I think that's, that system, that quarterback has been pretty good to CFF players for the last few years. So can't really go wrong selecting them there.
So let's see what else is going on here. Again, a little bit of a quarterback run here between Arnold, Jefferson, and Drones. I wonder if Ethan's going to keep that going, or he'll probably, let's see, Ethan's already got two quarterbacks. I'd be pretty shocked if he goes with a third quarterback here. I bet he's looking at a wide receiver. There's a couple of names that are still on the board that honestly I don't think typically last as late as the 6th round. Nope, he goes running back, third in a row there with Travion Henderson. And hold on, I think that might be no, never mind. Where did Quinshawn get taken? Where did Quinshawn get taken? Am I blind?
Yeah, 4th round.
Oh, 4-8. So
4-8.
How do you feel about that backfield? I know we discussed it a little bit last week with Felix and everything, but like you're pretty much our running back expert there, Justin.
Well, I appreciate that. I really don't. Well, for best ball, it's fine. For regular drafts, I really do not like drafting running backs that I know are in committees. Now, I know this one is sort of a special case because Chip Kelly's there. He has in the past had like 2 really productive running backs under him before. Maybe they can both go over 1,000 yards, splitting carries. I just don't like in leagues where you have to choose starters each week, not knowing like if you're choosing a player that you don't know what their role is that week. To like a certain degree, it's like the Penn State backfield, though I think the Ohio State running backs will be better. But I really do not like playing players where I don't know if they're going to see 5 touches, 20 touches, just with no complete uncertainty. I just like to avoid those backfields in regular drafts. For best ball, I can understand, although I think this still is a little higher than I would go, but I understand the thinking because I think both players are going to have some really big games throughout the season.
All right, it's coming up on your pick here pretty soon, VP, so I'm not going to ask you a question. So I'm going to hold off on the Bashal Tootin question there I see in the chat. We'll wait for that on until after Justin's picks here. Again, you got three running backs there, Justin. You got 1 wide receiver, 1 quarterback here. Are you going to continue with your heavy running back approach here with these 2 picks? Oh, never mind. You take Derwin Burgess.
And then there are a few running backs that I could do. I don't know if I have to draft them here, though. Sickham's not in this draft, right? Yeah, no, he's not. Okay. Nobody's taking the tight end yet, eh? I guess not.
No tight ends are off the board. And I think actually, hold on, I think I might have had a question earlier in the chat. That I think, Clay Mountcastle asked what round was it okay to take a tight end. Are you at that point? You starting to think about it?
I might, yeah. I'm just kind of looking at the other names. I don't know if I like them enough to draft them here. There's a bunch of names I could. My time is dialing down. Might just take a player because I think Alvin Smith just lost his tight end eligibility.
He did.
Right? Okay, I'm pressing draft. Okay, there we go.
Wow. First tight end off the board. Not one of the guys I expected.
Yeah, that's a bit of a wild card, right? But and probably you don't have to draft him that high if like for the other people out there who are looking to get Charlie. Normally, I don't think he goes in the 7th round, but I don't know. It's again, this is a live draft, and I was looking at my queue, which I don't know. There were some other players there that I could have drafted, but I just wanted to grab a player that well, now the tight end run starts.
Yeah, Jolly typically goes off at tight end 10, pick 143-ish. So you're looking at like the end of the 12th round. So definitely, in just terms of pure value, a couple of rounds of reach there for sure. But again, but also if you're getting your guy, like you're getting your guy.
I was just gonna say, like I generally do not mind reaching, too much in drafts. Obviously, ADP is important. You want to use that to try to like optimize your strategy and try to get value where you can. But ultimately, I feel like the most important thing always is just to grab the player that you want. So at a certain, point, you just kind of have to look at the board and say, you're going to draft somebody because like the ADP tells you to, or, just take the player that you want, even if, ADP says you'll be around in a few rounds. You never know. So.
Well, again, not to plug my own work here too much, but again, over at Campus Again, we do have a draft predictor tool. And to me, that is like the perfect marriage of using ADP versus going by your own rankings, right? Because that tool will tell you if you compare 2 different guys, which one's more likely to be available to you in a round. So if you do want to kind of play the ADP game a little bit, that's great. Because I think we had this discussion with LJ Martin, right? Where you're like, I think you got him as high as like what, RB 20 something? Like
it might be that. Yeah, I don't know what exactly the number is.
But the point being, like, you drafted him where you would take an RB 22, but everybody else is taking him like RB 80. And so, like, what would you rather do? Draft your RB 23 in the 5th round and then get your RB 22 in the 10th round? I think that's just smart drafting, in my opinion. Not saying like that's not what you do, but
no. Yeah, but the counterpoint to that, I suppose, is like if you're not going to draft that player, you have to sort of look at the rest of the board and be like, okay, who else do you want to draft at that pick? And in our draft, like that, it was Gridiron Scholars draft, I think, right? It was the 5th round. I was kind of just looking at the rest of the players, and I was just like, there isn't any other running backs that I'd rather have than LJ Martin. So I don't want to draft somebody else to take up a spot. We had 14 rounds, right, in that draft. The spots were limited, and I was like, okay, well, I know I want LJ. Let me just grab him. Don't have to worry about missing out on him. I'll just look at the other positions. But that is kind of a specific draft. Like, in general, I agree with you. There's no need for a player whose ADP is like, I don't know what, it was like 18th round or something like that for LJ to have to draft him in the 5th round in the regular draft. Obviously, you can wait longer than that. But in general, my philosophy is anytime your player's within like 3 or 4 rounds of their ADP, especially like the further back you go, then it becomes a fair game. Just grab them. As soon as you're comfortable, just take them.
I agree. I'm going to be affected by the tight end run here. I went ahead and grabbed Harold Finn, and I haven't gotten a ton of. Oh, that Gummit Clint. God, I went ahead and took my tight end here. I haven't gotten a ton of shares of Harold Fannin this year. Again, now that Dalvin Smith's out of the conversation for top tight ends, like the top tier tight ends kind of shrinks just a little bit more. I'm willing to reach up here in the 7th round and grab a guy like Harold Finn, who's just an absolute beast in Mac play. So, Justin, we forgot to go back to the Bayshal Tootin. Luke just simply asked, like, Tootin, thoughts on Bayshal Tootin? How do you feel about him?
Yeah, well, he was good last year. I just didn't like the inconsistent touch volume. If he had more consistent touch volume, I feel like he'd be getting drafted even higher in this year's drafts. I think that's kind of the question mark. Also plays with sort of a run heavy QB, Kyron Drones being the name specifically. So I don't know. I mean, I like him. I don't love him. Where did he get drafted already in our draft?
Yeah, he's at 6'6" there.
6'6"?
Yes, sir.
I don't mind that. That seems fine to me in terms of value. I don't know what his ADP is. Maybe it was a reach. I don't know, but 6 rounds seems fine for me in terms of like his profile.
Yeah, his ADP, Bayshal Tootin, typically goes off at, where are you, Mr. Tootin? Rootin' Tootin, here we go, RB41. Actually, hold on, let me check something real quick. I think I had the wrong setting set up. Here we go. Yep, I had it on the wrong month. There we go. Yes, Tayshal Booten. Where are you? I just lost you again. Oh, there he is. RB32 last month. 79.4. Oh, I'm on the clock. Dadgummit. Homer pick time. We're going Trevor Etienne. There, Georgia.
Nice.
But yeah, Tootin typically goes again back end of the 7th round, so like maybe a round early there in terms of ADP, but like. It's a fair piece of the it's a fair what's the word I'm looking for, like standard deviation compared to where he is his ADP is.
Yeah.
Yes, Ben, I know. Homer pick. But again, I like Trevor Etienne, especially here in the 8th round. Again, Georgia's backfield not quite as deep as it typically has been, so I do think that Trevor Etienne's probably going to get a bit more run than we have seen Georgia backs get recently. Obviously, Roger Robertson's going to be a huge part of that backfield. But, man, Etienne's probably the most complete back that Georgia's had since DeAndre Swift. I think he'll earn more carries. Yeah. Again, I like Roger Robertson, don't get me wrong. But, like, I think Etienne will be the guy for the most part. I'll take him here in the 8th round all day long.
I think I saw a stat from last year. It was like Florida's running backs were like 3rd in the SEC of, like, yards after contact, and their offensive line was like 10th in terms of like yards before the running back got hit. Like the offensive line play was bad, but the running backs were still efficient. And UGA was like the opposite. Like the offensive line play was good, but the running backs were not efficient. So now
there's a reason why, unfortunately, both Milton and Edwards went undrafted, right?
Yeah, well, and that surprised me. I thought maybe Milton would sneak in there, and that was unfortunate. But yeah, there is a reason, right? Like both those guys. Edwards, I like him. He was a tough kid, but like, yeah, he wasn't very explosive, and Milton can't really stay healthy. But point being, I think Etienne was really efficient last year on a bad Florida team. He's going to have a really good offensive line this year. As you said, probably the best running back that they've had since DeAndre Swift. Kirby doesn't like to give 300 carries, but I think 200 touches, 250 touches for Etienne this year is not out of the question. And I don't know. I think he'll probably have a pretty productive year.
No, especially with how good Etienne is out of the backfield in terms of catching the ball, right? Like, I could see him getting 170 touches on the ground, but then 30 receptions. I don't think is out of the question at all.
Oh, easily, yeah, easily.
So, let's see any other questions going on. Ryan's been kind of chit-chatting, like, because again he asked earlier about the heavy running back start there, and he thinks it's interesting that like, well, if that's like if people like me and you, Justin, think that that's the best strategy to go, why don't we see people like everybody in this draft take 3 running backs in their first 4 picks? I think it just has to do with at the end of the day, like people might know that, but also like there is a strategy in terms of zagging when other people are zigging, right? Like you see, like I kind of did it a little bit almost at the beginning here where I tried to grab three 120 plus target guys, at least in terms of their year-end pace, as my top three wide receivers in a PPR format. That's pretty dang great. And I can find some in a PPR format, I can find some pretty good running backs later on that can kind of bolster their value through the reception work as well. Justin, you're on the clock here. You take Jordan Moore. What was that?
I might have to take him, despite what I just said about waiting for his ADP. I don't know. I'm just looking at the rest of the board. I love LJ. I really do, and I know you can take him later, but I don't know. I was just looking at others. I was like, can I justify drafting a different running back when I like LJ more? No.
I mean, you took two of your guys right there, right? Jordan Moore, LJ Martin. Both those guys go typically a little bit later, but what do you like about them? Why should they rise?
Yeah, Jordan Moore, I love. He was really good last year. He's a converted quarterback. So he only played his first season of wide receiver. I believe it was 2022, I think. In 2023, he had a good season despite really sort of off and on quarterback play. I think he already saw 100 targets last year or close to it. And you think about his other wide receiver there, Jalen Calhoun, who saw a lot of targets. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And new OC comes over from SMU. Beat reports from the spring game, they're saying, the staff really wants to feed Moore a lot this season. They're going to give him a lot of opportunities to succeed. So I think he's just going to be a guy who they really feed a lot of targets to. And, those of you who subscribe to my publication, what I like. It's, these guys who get high volume pigs. So Jordan Moore, I think, is one of those types of players. LJ Martin, obviously this is a reach based on his ADP as well. But, I think, he popped as a freshman last year. He played quite a bit for a true freshman and actually started some games for them. And, I don't know what their quarterback play is going to be like this year. That's another quarterback competition that hasn't settled. The beat writers are not very optimistic about the play of that room this year, but they are really optimistic about the run game and LJ Martin. And they have said that the OC, Aaron Roderick, wants to establish the run a lot this season. So I think that's going to be the game plan. I think it's going to be a lot of LJ Martin from BYU this year. So again, that's another guy who I think is just on pure volume alone. I think he's going to have a good season.
Again, I understand the volume aspect because I look at their returning production from last year. Really, the only other running back they bring back is Micah Davis, right? And he's not a great running back by any stretch of the imagination. And Martin, while he didn't perform exceptionally well last year, he's a true freshman, right? You're going to need to give him some time to cook and everything like that. I'm just scared that BYU's going to be just a terrible team all around, and I am concerned about the scoring opportunities there. And they're going to be put in a lot of situations where they're going to be playing from behind, and Martin really not a pass catching back, so not a guy that you're going to be able to get a ton of work from if they do get put into a bad game script. Yeah. I've moved Martin back up my rankings a little bit. I was a little too harsh on him. But even still, for the most part, I'm just overall concerned with BYU this year. Again, I'm not touching any of the receivers. I'm not touching it in the quarterback room. Oh my God, Ethan, taking Malachi Fields from me there. That's just hurtful. That's just hurtful.
No, these are all valid concerns. These are all fair concerns. I share some of the same concerns as well. I don't know. I mean, the Big 12 overall, I think it's just going to be a really fun conference this year. I don't know. I know BYU was on the bottom or one of the bottom teams last year in the conference, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, what was that 8th round pick? If it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. It is what it is, but I don't know. We'll see.
All right. I was kind of hoping Malachi Fields would finally fall to me there in the 9th round. Ethan refusing to let me get any value here on some of these guys coming back here. So I guess I'll take a wide receiver here. I'll take Xavier Henderson there at Cincinnati. Again, a guy that got 97 targets last year. Should be getting a pretty decent upgrade at quarterback this year. Second year for Scott Satterfield and that offense over there. They typically have a number one guy. Henderson was that guy last year. Should be that guy again this year. And I'm feeling pretty good. I don't love having him there as my wide receiver 3. I am kind of having a little bit of FOMO, not grabbing some of the guys potentially that are going off around here. But again, maybe outside of I don't even know. Really, again, Malachi Fields is probably the only guy that I'm sitting here thinking probably should have taken him there in the 8th. Otherwise, a lot of the wide receivers here kind of feel the same to me as Henderson, where yes, they look like they're number 1 guys or number 2 guys in their offenses, but man, I'm not entirely sure that either they're the guy or that offense is going to be as elite as I want it to be, at least in terms of their passing.
Right. So you're high on Fields this year, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very high on Fields. Again, the guy had almost 100 targets last year, and you lose Malik Washington, and there goes Denzel Boston in the 10th round. Mike, you didn't have to draft him that high in this one, buddy. You're not facing off against Joe. Nah, for real. But Boston's a good pick. Again, 10th round. I think that's kind of where I'm okay with taking him. Let's see. I'm back on the clock here. Who can I go with here? Let me see. Let me look at running backs. I got 4 running backs already. Maybe I can grab a 5th one here. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take the likes of Ches Malusi. I think Ches Malusi might be the running back I have the most shares of this year. I'm a big believer in him there at Wisconsin. Again, nothing in terms of like him, being the monster that Braylon Allen was. But again, when he was given his opportunities before that point, one, he was out carrying Braylon Allen, which I do think says something. But also, two, he was good for a solid, 80 yards and a touchdown every single game, and that's worth it in this league. A couple of catches to go along with it. That's pretty much enough to get you close to 20 points per week. I'll take a big running back run here between Caden Fagan, Jordan Waters, Jamal Haynes, and Justice Haynes. 2 Haynes coming off the board back to back there.
I know Ethan really likes Waters, so I was wondering how far he was going to let him go. Oh, Cam Cook. Okay.
Wow, Cam Cook in the 10th round now. Oof, that's another one that's jumping up big time. And I like Cook, don't get me wrong, y'all, but him going from round 20 plus to round 10 here, pretty quick jump. Again, I know that we talk about him quite a bit, but
yeah, well, I can't judge, right? I mean, if you think he's going to be the TCU leading running back, then
it's hard not to take him, right?
Yeah, but to the ADP argument, obviously, probably you can wait, but again, if you look at my draft, I can't really criticize somebody there. Okay.
Let's see. Again, we're officially now 1/3 of the way through the draft. So again, I'll throw out a couple of reminders to you guys out there listening who are in the chat. One, if you have not liked the video already, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps us out a ton, gets us in front of the eyes of people who might be interested in watching a show like this. So help us out on that front. And then 2, again, I've had probably the same, maybe 3 or 4 people asking questions all night long in the chat. Some of you, guys, there's quite a bit of you watching this stream tonight. Go ahead and drop your questions. We are wanting to hear a ton from all of you guys out there. Let us know what it is you want to hear about. All righty, Justin, love it, man. Amari Thomas, another guy that, again, we'll talk about on tomorrow's CTN episode, so I won't speak too much on him here today. But what do you like about Amari Thomas? And you took Terrion Stewart there, another guy that I think personally has been going too late in drafts. What makes you think he's worth there in the 11?
You like Stewart, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Stewart too. But Amari Thomas, a player. So I wrote about him a while ago, and that wide receiver room. So he was a freshman last year. He had a pretty good year. Iverson Hooks was also having a good year. He got injured early on. Thomas kind of took over. Was seeing, he had some good games. Actually had his best game against Georgia of all teams, which is kind of strange. But now he returns year 2. Jacob Zeno, who's the quarterback, he had a pretty good year last year. He returns. The offense under Trent Dilfer and that staff moved very fast last year. I don't remember the exact number, but they were pretty high in terms of the FBS, seconds per play. So they move quick. The offense is pretty productive last year. I think Thomas is, he looked like a really good player in his freshman season. Now he's in year 2. I don't mind it. 10th round, you look at the other wide receivers that are available. I figured, why not? Terrion Stewart, he's another one I don't really know that much about. I mean, he's a strange one. He sort of broke out as a freshman in 2020 in 4 games, and then it was just sort of disappeared for a couple of years. Don't know what happened there. And then last year, he sort of reemerges. And, when they hand him the rock, he is good. It's just that they don't, it's very inconsistent, and the MAC is very hard to get information on. So it's very hard to know what exactly the plan is going to be there. But if they're going to use him the way they used him sort of towards the end last year, I think in a best ball format, he's a no-brainer to take later on, in the 10th plus round. So, yeah, what do you think about Stewart?
I mean, Stewart, again, should be in for a pretty big workload this year. Hopefully he can stay healthy for once. That's kind of been his main thing the last couple of years, that it's been very inconsistent as to whether or not, like you said, whether or not he'll even play week to week. Taron Keith transferred out. He's gone. Was at Western Kentucky. I forget where he's at now, but that kind of opens up the backfield even more for Terrion Stewart. It's in the MAC, when you have a guy that is healthy and you can ride on, they're going to want to do so. And I think he absolutely could be one of those guys. And honestly, Bowling Green probably a little bit better than most people are kind of giving him credit for coming into the season. Again, they've been kind of a walking mat the last couple of years, but who knows? I kind of like where they're headed.
Well, they got some nice pieces now, right? Tight end returns, got the running back who returns. I don't know who they have at quarterback and wide receiver, but it should be an interesting offense.
All right, I'm on the board here. There's some wide receivers I like a little bit more, but again, part of me is like trying to force myself to take running backs here before they start really, really drying up here later. Nope. I'm gonna force myself. I'm gonna take some wide receivers that I like here. I'm gonna take Christian McCray. If other people are gonna start reaching up higher than ADP, I guess I'll go ahead and do so to get me my guy Christian McCray there at Kent State. Absolutely phenomenal volume pace that he had towards the end of last year. Again, you talk about 12 targets per game over his last 4.5 games. When he's healthy, he is the go-to guy for the Golden Flashes. I like my pick there quite a bit.
Great pick. Yeah, I had him queued up. I wanted to take him with my next pick.
Oh, Luke Lachey finally coming off the board there at the end of the 11th round. He went way too late in this draft. He should be a guy that, in my opinion, is going with that first tier.
Yeah, probably. I think people are probably concerned, I guess, about the injury that he sustained, like if he's going to be healthy or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably fair. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take running back here. Another high ups. I've got a lot of high upside running back picks here, but Dylan Sampson, man, again, I know Tennessee typically splits their backfield between a couple of guys, but his efficiency last year was absolutely phenomenal. They lose both right and small this year. Their next best option at running back is Cam Seldon, a guy I know a lot of people like, but he really didn't show us much last year. I think Sampson, I don't think he's necessarily going to be that volume pig, like 250 plus guy or anything like that for Tennessee, but like all I need based on what I saw last year is just a good 180 to 200 touches from him, and I should be happy most weeks.
Yeah, and he should have some big games, right? And again, in the best ball format, like you're not having to choose a starter week to week, so inconsistent volume is not as big of a problem.
Let's see, any other Justin, on the 11 people you drafted so far, is that 11 for 11 for people that you have written an article for?
Probably. I don't know. Let me see. I haven't written.
You've written a lot of articles, so I think it's probably not hard to do that.
Yeah, I don't remember all of them, but Stewart, I don't think I've written on.
Great pick by Ethan there, Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I was wondering when he was going to come off. I was actually, and Luke's just came off too. Man, it's been a tough couple of rounds here. A lot of my guys, I think, are getting drafted.
Well, again, then people know who they're drafting against in this stream, so
yeah, that always does make it harder, right? Like, because it's just you're playing. It's like you're at the poker table. Everybody knows your hand, kind of thing. But okay.
That's fine. We can work with this.
It just makes it more fun in my book. It's only fair, if they didn't have that advantage, just would it'd be too easy. It'd be too easy, Jared.
Hey Jared, can VP see the chat? I mean, can you see the chat? I should have it up on our screen for you to be able to read there. I don't know how easy it is for you to read there, Justin.
Yeah, it's very difficult, but I do have another tab open where I can look at the chat.
Ryan asks, is there one specific non-Power 4 league that should be focused on for people to draft from? Or is there 5 or 10 specific teams to focus on? I guess Ryan's asking if you're somebody who does not have time to research all 134 teams, right? Is there a specific league that you would tell somebody hey, don't research all 134 teams, get the guys and then the rest of your draft from this conference? What conference would you pick for that, Justin?
Outside of the P4, right?
Outside the P4.
Yeah, well, I mean, all the G5 conferences are generally pretty good. I think the Mountain West is one of my favorite conferences for CFF. I think there's always...
I agree.
Pat Bryant just went off too. I'm going to be in a tough spot here. So let me, I will extrapolate a little bit more on my answer, although I think I answered it, but just...
No, I'll kind of take it from there. I mean, I'm also probably a big fan of the Mountain West, because the Mountain West, through all the conference realignment, still kind of held on to the core of a lot of their big teams, right? You still got Boise State over there. UNLV is kind of an up-and-comer right now. Fresno State still kicking around. Their defenses are still pretty porous. I think the second best answer, and I think G5 Hive said it best in the chat right there, where they said both Mountain West and Sun Belt. I do think that those are probably the two conferences that I would focus on the most. MAC is not quite what it used to be in the fact that, like, MAC, it used to be you could grab a whole bunch of different guys and it would be great every single week. And now the true stars in MACtion are fewer and farther between. And when you hit phenomenally because they haven't been sucked up by Power 4 offers yet, right, in the transfer portal. And so they're playing against defenses that have had their best players taken away by the transfer portal in the offseason. The defenses are overall weaker, so they pop off even better. But there's also only like one per every other team now in the MAC versus a lot of MAC teams just kind of suck.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think a lot of people have sort of mentioned this on Twitter, or this has sort of been the sentiment recently. It's like, yeah, the MAC has not been as good recently as it once was. And obviously, I think, yeah, the transfer portal probably has something to do with that. I don't know. I think this year there's a few names, Crayshawn McRae. There's some players in the MAC, and even last year there were some pretty big stars there too, right? Especially at running back with Amos, Penny Boone. So there's still some good value there.
Clayton Mountcastle, you asked in the chat, I dare you to draft a Service Academy player. If you don't force me to take one right now, Clay, I can actually make sure that I draft one by the end of the night. How does that sound, Clay? I'll make sure I draft one. Also, Daniel Dixon saying they need to bring Montana and Montana State to the Mountain West. I would love to actually see that. And also, like, I'm sorry, Oregon State and Washington State, suck it up and just join the Mountain West. It's just going to be better for you in the long term. Because, like, Mountain West, I actually... Luke! Sorry, got distracted there by Luke absolutely sniping the crap out of me there. I'm in trouble at QB now. I am not going to lie. I waited way too long to grab my second quarterback. I am in trouble.
Regarding the Service Academy question, is the player you're thinking of, do they play for Air Force?
Oh, of course. That's the only place to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So again, I'm sure we'll be battling between each other to see who can actually grow the pair enough to actually take their shot on that backfield.
30 rounds. I wouldn't mind the 29 to 30.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, now I gotta get some creative, a little creative running or quarterback here. You know what? This entire draft, I've been doing a lot of upside guys. So screw it, give me Miller Moss again. He's been going later and later in drafts. 13th round. This is pretty much at the point where he's got to be taken off the board, right? He's got to be taken off the board. And
I was thinking about back to back at 12-13. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, you're good. What were you saying?
I was thinking about taking them back to back there, 12-13. I ended up going for different Moss, but
Gotcha.
love the upside, and you're definitely going with a lot of upside for your picks, and I do like that approach. And the best
I will either be dead last in this league or I am winning the whole thing. There is absolutely no in between. Yeah. Here. And again, I'm gonna take one of my favorite guys here in the 14th round as well. Hopefully Mike doesn't take him out on me here. But you know, gotta go with the systems that you love. And I was just talking about him a second ago. Gio Lopez, good pick there by Clint Carlson. Again, there's a lot of fun upside picks at quarterback right now. It's just I feel bad not having a more solidified guy as my second quarterback, but we'll see what we can do. Oh, Mike, really? Parker Jenkins too? Oh man, I really hate. I'm not liking my draft right now because these guys are not making it easy for me on this end over here. But gotta take John Mateer. I love the Washington State system. Love Ben Arbuckle's system. John Mateer, I'm expecting to be the starting quarterback for them over there. Maybe I take Zevi Eckhouse later on in this draft, especially with Carp not playing. Carp, I know you're out there, man. Hopefully Zevi Eckhouse lasts a little bit longer now that Carp's not in the draft, because Carp is not afraid to draft him in round 20, or the moment that Mateer comes off the board, like the next pick that Carp has is gonna be Zevi Eckhouse.
Not a bad strategy.
I would say that I'll give Ryan Carp a little bit of credit on that. I've done enough drafts with him where I know for a fact he is a 100% in the camp of when he believes that he thinks he's getting a discount on the actual winner of an RB battle or a quarterback battle. He is not afraid to draft that guy over and over and over again. I know he's done it with Jadon Blue. Zevi Eckhouse is another example. I'm sure he's listening in the chat. He could probably provide me a couple of other examples, but it's either going to work out really, really well for him or it's going to bite him in the butt completely. But, that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, right? Like, if you lose, but you have all your guys, and it just ends up being like, the bets you made didn't pan out, you don't feel so bad about it, right? I mean, it is what it is. So, if you have your guys, you always feel better.
Alrighty.
I do like the Mason Taylor pick at 14. That's a good one.
That could be a very, very fun one. I agree. All right, I got to start looking at running back again. Again, the options are drying up pretty quickly. I mean, I only have 6 of my 10 that I like to have. But
yeah, I mean, got quite a few. 6, I think is. I mean, I think I only have 6. No, I only have 5.
Oh wow, I thought you'd have more by now.
Well, I think most people have probably.
I think it's because you like round 14 through 8, you didn't take a single running back there, and I think that's typically where you kind of load up on guys, right?
Yeah. So, well, you just try out different strategies and things like that.
No, for sure. Again, Carp was saying though, like, oh, if I don't take running backs like heavy early on every single draft, it's not a true like. What was it? I don't want to say something. The phrasing he didn't use, but it was like, it's not like a. Where are you, Ryan? Let's see. He was basically saying that like it's basically not. Yeah, it's not an absolute strategy. No, again, I don't think there is an absolute strategy for CFF, right? Again, it's a strategy that I like. It's a strategy that I feel better about coming out of drafts for the most part. But like, I do enough of these drafts that I purposely make sure that I try out different strategies and try out different combinations of players to see how I like them. And again, I still come back to that early running back strategy, and that's probably as we get closer and closer to the season when I start drafting in my actual leagues. That's probably where I'm going to go most often than not. But right now, like, I still like what I did at the top of this draft for the most part.
Yeah, I'm gonna snipe Ethan back here because he took Benjamin. I know he likes Amari Kelly, so
there you go. Revenge picks are always fun.
Revenge, yeah.
I got Chris Moxley back in a C2C league recently where he took like 3 guys in a row that I was hoping would fall to me, and so like I took Broden Green, the tight end out of Rice, like maybe like 5 rounds ahead of where I would have normally taken him because I just knew that I'm like Mox is gonna be mad if I take him right now, and it worked.
This is the problem when we're doing these C2C drafts is like because we all know like which guys we like. Like I remember doing it with like Kay, right? And I know he likes Kyron Drones. So there was one draft where I wanted to get Kyron Drones. I ended up having to like select him. I think it was like the 6th round, 7th round, just because I knew like Kay was probably going to draft him higher than what his ADP was. But it's hard to know like how high somebody will go beyond their ADP, right? It just sort of pushes it up even further. So
again, that's why like I'm big on like if you're gonna go get your guy, like and if you like a guy more than what ADP is, I'd wait until like only just a round or 2 before. Because that kind of gives people the opportunity to decide, like, okay, am I willing to go up that extra round to get him? And then the shifts in ADP become a little bit more organic, in my opinion. Versus, like, if you're like, oh, I'm going to draft a guy 7 rounds ahead of where he goes in ADP. I'm just like, well, then now you're going to be giving people the wrong idea in terms of what his value is. Not again, I'm not dunking on you here, VP. Or anything like that. I just want to make sure that's clear. For me, like I do actively look at ADP a lot of times to kind of make sure that like, all right, I'm not taking this guy way ahead of where he normally goes because otherwise I feel like I'm just losing value.
Yeah, Again, I think it's a balanced approach, right? Obviously, you have to use ADP just to give you some context. You don't want to just be reaching for guys, but yeah, I respect and understand anybody who wants to just draft the guy that they want. Once you get within 3 or 4 rounds of that person's ADP, why not? Oh, Rashad Amos.
Rashad Amos and Dalvin Smith, 2 guys that I thought whose values were pretty dead. There they are.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. What do you make of Ole Miss's backfield? Do you think it's a committee this year?
I got to imagine it's a committee this year. Again, Rashad Amos, even though I do think I kind of liked him the most out of that backfield, right? Like,
yeah,
it's a scenario where again, like. I watched him this offseason just bouncing around from different programs and like, you know, nobody really wanting him until the end and everything like that. It just screams to me that it's not a situation I want to get myself involved in, right? It's also the reason why, I mean, really any player that goes to Colorado, like I just don't feel the need to go and draft them, because if you're going to Colorado at this point, I'm sorry, you're not somebody who takes the game of college football seriously. If you watch what Colorado did the last couple of years, and you've seen the number of people who have gone in there and transferred out, not within a year, within a semester, they're transferring out. So, all right, I'm gonna take a wide receiver here. I'm gonna take a guy that sneakily got 100 targets last year, going here in the 15th round. Give me Daniel Jackson out of Minnesota. Should be getting a QB upgrade. We've seen PJ Fleck give us some incredible wide receiver talent over the last couple of years. Think you're Tyler Johnson, think you're Rashad Bateman's. I think Daniel Jackson's potentially the next guy up there, so I'll take it.
I like the pick. Yeah, I had him queued up, and I was wondering because I know you like Jackson. And this is typically the range I think you generally take him. So I was wondering if you were gonna. There is another wide receiver I was thinking it maybe because another one that I know you like. I was thinking maybe you would.
We're probably thinking of the same guy, and he's absolutely at the top of my queue. So we'll see if Mike and Clint are nice to me, and they'll let me take him here.
Well, they probably know who we're talking about as well, but yeah.
We'll see. Yep.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yep, that was it. I should have known. Now I'm sitting here wondering, like, should I have taken Meredith, and then maybe Jackson makes it back to me. I doubt it. They're both smart guys, so we'll see.
It's tough to know, yeah.
We'll see. Do I force myself to take a running back here? Probably not. Again, we're pretty much at the range now where all the guys that I would take in like the 20+ round range are all still on the board. Maybe one guy here I might consider. We'll see if it's, I'll take him. I haven't gotten a ton of shares of him. He's a guy that I liked for the most part, coming from his old school before his coach left. Now he's with his old coach again. I'm gonna take the shot on him. I don't see him typically last year to the 16th round. And again, this entire draft has been so upside heavy. I'll take another upside running back here, and hope that we're not going to deal with anybody else in that backfield. Give me Quali Conley there at Arizona.
Oh, nice.
So I'll take it. I will take it. So, alrighty, let's see. Anybody else talking to it in the chat? Not really too much going on in the chat and everything. VP, we're about halfway through the draft now. How are you kind of feeling about your team?
I feel okay. I mean, it's always that there's, and you know this because you've been doing these. You have to juggle multiple things here, where you're live on air chatting and sort of setting the queue. And I didn't set too much of a queue here before the draft. I just figured I'd wing it. And I feel okay. I mean, I've got quite a bit of players that I like, right? In terms of ADP value, and we've spoken about this ad nauseum at this point, but there are several players that are reaches along this draft.
For sure.
Where you probably could have waited, or I could have waited and gotten them. But there's just it is a question of I have to draft somebody in these rounds, and I'm just sort of looking at the board and I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to draft players that I don't like. That's sort of my first principle, is just never draft players you don't like, even if it's like the ADP sort of makes that feel appropriate. So I just wanted to get the players that I want regardless. So I think the draft is okay so far.
Ben, I have to wonder if you have like an early access to my show sheet for tomorrow's show, because you've asked about so many programs that we talk about on the show tomorrow. Because Ben's asking about Wake Forest. So VP, I'll throw it over to you, man. Like, anybody from Wake Forest that you're willing to take shots on this year?
Oh my God. No, not really. I mean, I saw, was it Purple Rain, a hot take the other day about Donovan Green. I'll believe it when I see it. I like Donovan Green. I just, what is it? Every single season he's played, I don't think he's lasted more than a few games. So I don't think it's ever been a question of the talent with him. And obviously the system there under Clausen is good. But I don't know that I buy that there's going to be one receiver or that there's one ahead of time that I'm going to like the draft.
Bachmeier to me is a huge roadblock, right? Where I don't think Bachmeier is a good quarterback. He hasn't had a good season since 2021 at Boise State. Just hasn't been the same ever since then. Maybe Clausen gets something out of him that I haven't seen, but he didn't look all that great in the spring game either. So, I'm personally staying away from Wake Forest. I'll take shots on some guy because none of them are getting drafted hardly. I think maybe you might see Taylor Morin come off the board in like the last 3 rounds, but everybody else is not getting drafted. So they're a team that like I'll watch list a few guys, take a look, or I'll check them maybe 1 or 2 weeks into the season to see who all's kind of popping off over there, and then I'll invest in them. But for right now, not worth it in my opinion. There's just too many unknowns.
Yeah, and the running back under Clausen hasn't really typically been a position where there's value, so that's not really a position I'm looking at either.
So let's see. Ryan's basically baiting us over here into picking or into getting people to snipe us in the next couple of rounds, because he's asking like, who are our top 5 last 5 round picks? So like last 5 rounds of the draft, VP, who are some guys that you pretty much take every time you're down there? Again, I feel like that's just baiting into people sniping us over the next 10 rounds.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to answer that, but like what format are we talking? Like in a 30-round best ball, like at the last 5, like between
I mean, we're in a 30-round best ball right now, so like why not, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, we mentioned one. I wouldn't mind going with that Service Academy player at the end if he's available there. I don't know if he lasts that long.
I'm gonna go ahead and put him in my
Um,
queue before I forget about him.
Might as well. I don't know if I like this pick that much, but I have to choose somebody.
Oh, I like him in round 20 plus range. You didn't have to take
Yeah,
him that early from me,
I
Justin.
know. I know. Well, so you've been going with upside this draft. I've been going with, reaching on ADP. That's kind of the theme. So
Yep.
let me see here.
Okay, Ryan's saying wait till round 26 to say our guys. So he's being kind to us and letting us wait for a while. So, Justin, you make your second pick here. I'll let you talk about Amari Haynes and whoever else you take here. And then I'll have a question for you, Justin. This is my question, not a chat's question. What is one offense that you think is being under-discussed this offseason?
One offense is being under discussed. Probably. So maybe UTEP. UTEP is a program. Scotty Walden, new head coach, comes over from Austin P. I think I tweeted about one of their players a few weeks ago, Javon Jackson. I think I drafted him.
You
Yeah, I
did.
did. So he's the running back. He's coming off a 1,000-yard season under Walden and that staff at Austin P. Now he's at UTEP. So who knows how they'll use him, but I assume probably similar. I mean, he might not have the same output numbers playing at a higher level, but this is a guy who we already saw the previous staff utilize quite a bit. They have 2 new wide receivers. I'm not going to mention their names yet. And the offense at Austin P last year, the QB was pretty good. And I believe Cade McConnell returns as a starter this year. So you could see an improvement from him. If you're talking like deep best ball, maybe he's a quarterback in the last round or something you select. I don't know, who knows? But that's an offense where, yeah, I think there could be a lot of value there this year.
Yeah, I think UTEP's a great one. I think people are kind of under discussing it, but also it's one of those things, right, where you're kind of questioning like how much does an FCS offense translate to the FBS in year one. Granted, again, it is the CUSA, so you're not asking them to translate much there. I think, and this was kind of brought to my attention a little bit with Bernie the Redshirt. They recently kind of discussed this a little bit, but UTSA absolutely feels like one of those teams, right, where we kind of feel like we know what's going on. I know for a fact that like the guy a lot of people consider the top receiver is still on the board now. DeCorian Clark is a guy that's lost a lot of value recently, where I think as the season's kind of gone, off-season's kind of gone on a little longer and longer, people realize like, yeah, we could just assume they're going to do the same thing they've done the last couple of years. But again, they're on their 3rd offensive coordinator, right? In 3 years, you're looking at them moving on from Frank Harris. Now they're in a battle between Owen McCowan and Eddie Lee Marburger, neither of which really inspire a ton of confidence. They also just brought in Demetrius Davis from the FCS to potentially compete at quarterback, so we don't really know what's going to happen going on over there. Obviously, the wide receiver position, we like Devin McCune, we like DeCorian Clark, but they also bring in J.J. Sparkman, who got some rave reviews this spring. You got DJ Allen coming in as well. They still got William McCoy and Chris Carpenter, 2 guys that we liked the previous years. Like, I feel like a lot can change with UTSA this offseason. It completely flies under the radar because nobody's really paying that much attention to them. And like shoot the backfield as well, right? Like Robert Henry comes back, Avorian Barnes, they're going much later. Is Barnes going to be the guy again now that he's healthy? Or is Henry still going to be the guy that gets all the, or where Barnes does all the work between the 20s and then Henry gets all the touchdowns? We'll see. All right, I think there's a pretty insane guy at quarterback here that I'm kind of surprised is still on the board. He kind of slipped by me at first. I probably would have taken him a round or two earlier if I saw him there. So hopefully A Wood is again nice to me. Y'all have not been nice to me. Well, took Tyler Shuck. That was not the guy I was thinking of. I'll take Josh Hoover at TCU. Another offense that I think until recently was pretty under-discussed for CFF potential. Now, obviously, as we saw earlier, Cam Cook went way higher. I still don't like any of their wide receiver options. Again, I don't know if Mike and Clint are listening, but I think I'm probably going to go ahead and take who I think will be their top receiver option on the way back here because I am in need of another tight end here, and I do like who they were able to get. Well, Mike seems to be listening a little bit because he went and grabbed Devin McEwen. So let's see if he's nice to me and lets me have my guy on the way back. In the chat here, VP, Poinam asks, thoughts on Nebraska? Raiola projection, any wide receiver worth investing, or anything at running back in Dynasty, redraft? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't, Nebraska's kind of an enigma. I think Raiola, it seems likely that he's going to start. I don't really like drafting freshmen in regular CFF drafts. Raiola, maybe is an exception at the end of a draft. You take a chance on him. I don't really know what to make of their offense. There isn't really one position or one thing that sort of typically that offense, like that staff, Satterfield, I think his name is, that they've sort of really done well for like CFF. At wide receiver, I mean, Jamal Banks is somewhat intriguing. He had his moments at Wake Forest. Same thing with Isaiah Nair. I mean, he had some good moments at Wyoming. Sort of disappeared for a few years. I don't know if I like either enough to really, go out of my way to draft them. Maybe at the very end of a deep league. I don't think there's going to be any value at running back. I think they're going to split carries, and there isn't really one name that stands out. So I'm not really looking at that offense as a place where probably I'll be drafting too much. How about you, Jared?
I'd have to be pretty deep to really kind of start looking at the Nebraska room. It is a team that, again, because of Raiola's talent, I do think that there could be a wide receiver that kind of stands out there. And if I had to take a shot, I'm with you. Jamal Banks is probably the guy I would take the shot on. In terms of Raiola, I'm not touching him in Dynasty because his skill set very much reminds me a lot of Quinn Ewers. And again, if you've had Quinn Ewers the last couple of years, it seemed great when you first drafted him until you realized that for CFF purposes, his ceiling's pretty much capped at like QB 35 every single year. And that's just not what I want in a Dynasty format. Raiola, again, honestly, might be better in redraft because at least you kind of get that solid floor there. But he's also playing in the Big Ten, so there's going to be some really, really bad weeks there, especially as a true freshman. Like, don't get me wrong, love the talent of Raiola. I think he's in terms of like a Devy perspective, I think Raiola is actually the best quarterback in the draft or in this class. Again, Lagway obviously very good as well, but in terms of just like guys I could see playing on Sunday, like Raiola seems like the best guy to me. That doesn't always necessarily translate to best college fantasy options. So, running back though, I kind of like Dante Dowdle. Again, former 4-star running back there, was at Oregon, coming over to Nebraska. I agree with you, VP, that like it's probably going to be committee at least to start the season. But he's a talented enough guy that like I think I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year he was getting kind of that 18 to 20 touches per game that you might want to see out of a running back.
Okay, that's good to know.
So, all right, we got a couple of runs here. A big tight end run this round. I think I kind of kicked that off. Or actually, Mike kicked it off with Sam Roche. I went Drake Dabney, a guy that I like this year. Boardingham, Cole Taylor, Mitch Evans, Ben Urasek. Justin, you have not taken a second tight end. With that tight end run kind of going there, are you feeling the pressure to potentially take another tight end here?
No, not really. Because there's still quite a few that I like that I could draft later on. So that's okay.
Let's see. All right, you take Brendan Sorsby. I like that pick at quarterback.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, we'll see what happens with that offense. Hmm.
And then let me take a look at something real quick.
I see somebody typed in Mulligan. I think Purple Rain drafted. It's not okay.
Wait,
So Donovan redrafted.
who
Okay.
said who's saying Mulligan? What was that? Or is it?
Purple.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'll replace it.
Yeah, this is another player that is a reach at this range, and another guy I think you like, or at least liked at one point. But I don't know. We'll go with some upside here with.
No, this is the perfect range to take Freeman, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. This is another upside. I mean, it's best ball, right? So you might as well just swing for the upside, basically every pick, the way you've been doing. So
Freeman, I got a little crazy with him. I had him. I was drafting him at one point, like the 14th round. That was my own personal, like, I got way too carried away with the guy pretty early on, and like, but even still, like, even back down here to the 19th round, I think that Freeman, again, the way they talk about him, they're like, oh, he's exactly what we want in a wide receiver. It's just he hasn't learned the routes yet. I'm like, okay, so once he learns the routes, he should be good to go. Like, I don't care that they say he's 4th on the depth chart or whatever. Like, he just got there.
Yeah, no,
he just got there.
Yeah, no, and I was reading Andy Pham's write up because I guess he went and saw the spring game. Some of you might know Andy on Twitter, but he basically echoed that sentiment where he basically was talking about what he was observing, and he was just saying like, yeah, it's clear Freeman's one of the best receivers. They're targeting him all the time. It just seems like he doesn't really know the route, the playbook because he just got there, as you were saying. So it seems almost inevitable that he's going to work his way up the depth chart there. I like what Dwight did there, actually taking the second South Alabama running back. So I took McReynolds in the 17th, and then he ended up taking Bullock. I like that sort of strategy because it's not really clear like who is going to be RB1 there. I sort of just defaulted to McReynolds. I think I read a beat report that suggested he's probably the favorite to be RB1, but it could be either or, could be a split too. But anyway, in any event, I do like what Dwight did there.
No, same thing there with Luke taking Jam Miller at 19-6. I mean, I like Justice Haynes. I think he'll be the top running back at Alabama. But when you got Justice Haynes coming off the board at, 10-7? Miller's going 9 rounds later. I don't think Miller's that far behind Haynes. And I think he'll have plenty of good games as well. Look at that CJ Daniels pick, man. Like, Asul took him there in the 19th round. Remember when he was going, 5th, 6th round? Earlier this offseason, that is crazy how much that has changed over the last couple of months.
Well, it's literally flipped, right? Because Lacey, where did he go? He was
he was 4th round.
Yeah, so it basically flipped.
Yeah, no. Again, I'm glad that people have kind of come around to the idea that like Lacey is the safest pick among the wide receivers at LSU this year because again, he's been there the longest. He was pretty solid behind Neighbors and Thomas last year. We're seeing a ton of talk about him from the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that again, he's the smart pick of the 3. Again, Daniels, lots of reports that he's not even working with the first team. So I'm glad his value's come down quite a bit. Xavier Thomas is kind of the more interesting one to me, right? Because again, he is a Power 4 transfer. He is somebody that's been working with the second team and with the first team. I could see him potentially breaking out because I liked him quite a bit over there at Mississippi State.
Yeah, and he's...
on the clock. Oops.
Okay, yeah. I won't distract you here. But yeah, Xavier this is a good idea. And I believe he's a slot player, but I could be wrong.
Let's see. Where do I want to go with here? Again, running back... Not a ton of great options left, but I'll go ahead and take another one here. I'll take John Gentry there as Sam Houston. Don't love it, but again, it's just the way the draft's been falling. There's not a ton of great running back options left, so I might as well grab a guy that was getting me at least 18 to 20 touches per game at some point during the season.
Oh, I like that pick. Actually, he actually saw some pretty good volume last year. For a 19th round running back, that's not bad. You're not really going to find too many players available that saw the type of volume Gentry was seeing last year. They did bring in a transfer, and I can't remember who. They just brought in a transfer, I think, last month. But
I can't remember off the top of my head either. I'll have to look it up.
But you know what I'm talking about. They did have a transfer, right? So
Ryan says, on average, how many new players emerge to be good enough for this 30-rounder? He's thinking about like freshmen, but again, there's lots of guys every year that just come out of nowhere for CFF, right? Guys that were going undrafted for the most part in leagues. Like I'm just looking at last year's results, right? Haynes King, who was drafting Haynes King, right?
Yeah.
Thomas Castellanos at Boston College, like Joey Aguilar at App State. Like these are guys, like Chandler Rogers in North Texas. I mean, a couple people took the shots on him. Well, Mike just said F you to all of us and took the only good Air Force running back that potentially would have been interesting for all of us. So that hurts a little bit, Mike, but it's okay. I'm going to take my own Mountain West piece here. I'll take John Michael Gillenborg, the tight end out of Wyoming. Probably, I think he might be the tight end that I know the most, or I roster the most of this year, because again, I just like taking tight ends that are probably going to lead their teams in receiving. Ain't nothing wrong with that in my opinion.
That's a good strategy. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about tight ends, there's so little that you can sort of latch onto. Anytime you can find a player who has a reasonable path to be the leading receiver of any offense, you'll never see me complaining about a pick like that.
All right, I'm gonna keep loading up my queue here. There's actually quite a few receivers that I like still on the board. Again, I think I've taken only 5 so far. I think I might actually wait and take 5 in my next. Well, I have to take 5 of my next 9 here, but I think it wouldn't shock me if I get to the end and I'm just taking some upside shots at wide receiver at the very end while I kind of solidify up the rest of this. Point now, I'm taking both Notre Dame running backs there. How do you feel about that, Justin?
Yeah, I like that. It's a good strategy. You know, anytime you're drafting a player where it's not really clear who the RB1 of that situation is, and you can get a chance to take, the other one the next round. Again, we're in like the 20s now, 1920. You might as well. Not bad. You sort of just monopolize that backfield and sort of guarantee if there is, a bell cow coming out of there. And again, that was a productive backfield last year. So he's basically guaranteed that he's going to have that guy. So I like that pick.
All right, I'm going to load up with a couple more upside guys here. Taking a look at some of the guys at running back. I think I will probably go ahead and try to solidify my running back over the next couple of picks here. Just go ahead and get the position out of the way, done with, not worry about it the rest of the draft, because I know for a fact there's quite a few guys in here that you like, that you've written about, that I want to see if I can go ahead and get. And then again, I just don't want to be stuck left holding a bag at the very end trying to scrounge my way for some running backs. But we'll see if you're nice to me, Justin, and if you'll let me have some guys here after your 2
don't
picks.
Put this all on me, but there's nothing more that I would want than to make your life miserable, Jared. So,
well, and as I say that, Dwight takes Floyd Chalk off the board. Oh my God, it's just one of those nights, man. Just one of those nights. I must sound so irritating tonight. Like I have been just complaining the whole time.
I do like this portion of the draft because it basically becomes like you can just draft sort of the players that you want, and ADP kind of goes out the window a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's quite a few players I could draft here. I should pay attention to my positional breakdown at 30 seconds.
34, 33, 32, 31, 30.
How many running backs is too much to draft? I have 7.
You have 7?
Yeah, do you think that's... Actually, no, I'm going to draft them.
I'd probably at least take one more, right?
Yeah. So
Benefield, nice. Kennesaw State.
Yeah.
I just wrote about him.
Did you? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know much about that program, to be honest. It's hard to find information.
It is so hard to find information on that program.
Yeah. So I'd be interested. I don't really know why this player is still available. Well, I guess I kind of have an idea, but I am a little surprised. I'll take a shot with Carnell Tate. I understand the trepidation about Ohio State passing offense this year. There's, Igbuka is there. Jeremiah Smith might end up being wide receiver 1 there. I don't know. But, and then Will Howard, obviously, as well, right? This is kind of more of a run heavy QB. But I don't know. I mean, Carnell Tate, he's a sophomore, second-year player. He's, a guy that a lot of people were excited about last year. At 21, I don't mind taking a shot with him there.
No, again, this was a guy that I was drafting round 5 when we first started drafting earlier in the offseason. Obviously, again, things change. The offensive coordinator change was obviously a very big one. But yes. And then obviously, Will Howard, Devin Brown, both quarterbacks we don't truly trust in the passing game like we would have previous Ohio State quarterbacks, and we saw what that looked like last year. So he's definitely taken a tumble throughout the year. Man, again, it's just been so brutal. Again, AJ Duffy coming off the board there. I had him top of my queue, ready to go as my 5th quarterback. Great pick by Joe there. It's just a hard knock life out there, man. Hard knock life.
It's been a tough draft for us both. I think I have to start looking at QBs as well.
Like, I'm looking at my queue and I'm looking at like my rankings and everything, and like I feel like we're in like round 25, 26, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh wow, we're still in round 21. You guys have, and that's a testament to who we're drafting against. Like, again, we're drafting against some people who are very, very good. Clearly, because again, they're making lots and lots of good picks here, but also, man, is it making it tough for me. I know, poor me, poor Jared, poor host over here, right? Like, you guys totally care about that.
Well, I mean, you're the expert, Jared, right?
I know. So. Yeah, people are rooting for me to lose, and that's fine. I'm happy. I'm happy to be the villain. This is great. So let's see what else we got going on here. Again, Jordan Hudson, I like that pick there from Purple Rain quite a bit. Again, we talked about quite a bit with second-year transfers, kind of breaking out well. Mm-hmm. So I like the pick there from Purple Rain. Again, Broden Green, another guy I like there out of Rice. I think Rice in general is another offense I think people are underrating a little bit, because like I'm probably not gonna take him, but like Landon Ramsum is a guy that you're potentially looking at replacing Luke McCaffrey. Also, Rawson McNeil is another wide receiver I kind of like there. If EJ Warner can get it going there, like that offense could be quite a bit of fun. Jaden Thomas is also another interesting pick there from Luke. Again, running back at a UNLV. They lose quite a bit in terms of that backfield. It was a 4-way monster last year, and they lost 3 of them. Jaden Thomas, true freshman, also led them in touchdowns. Is the only one back. Now they bring in some guys. They bring in Michael Allen from NC State. They bring in another. It was one of the running backs from Mississippi State, I think. So they bring in some extra bodies there. So I don't think Thomas is going to become like a full workhorse volume pig over there or anything like that. But he could be an interesting one if they do go that direction. And there goes Landon Ransom off the board. I know Ethan's listening. He heard that one. He's like, Jared's talking about him. He's got to take him soon.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick.
I'm going to take the backup to one of our top 2 picks there. I'm going to take John Brace Dubar.
I like
two reasons, right? Because one, Ashton Gianti goes down, Dubar's going to go absolutely nuts. And then 2, like we saw when both Gianti and Holani were on the field last year, Boise runs enough to where you can have 2 productive backs out there. And so I think Dubar, even if nothing happens, and Dubar's still going to have some good weeks. Again, that's my 9th running back off the board. If I can get 3-4 good weeks out of him, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Clint taking Sluka. Nobody else takes Sluka, please, because not the Rodriguez Clark pick, man. All right, I'll take my last running back here. I'm kind of being forced into it because I'm like I'm talking bare bones running backs here, man. I talked about it a little bit earlier with Wake Forest, but I'll take Damon Claiborne. I hope that Clausen lets him rip because he's a good running back. I'm not counting on it, but I'm sick and tired of people sniping running backs from me, so I'm just taking my 10th and final one here and calling it a night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his game log last year. He had a couple of games. I mean, they gave him the rock 26 times against Vanderbilt. I mean, he wasn't consistently getting a lot of volume, but he did get a few games. He was a true sophomore last year.
Again, I'm hoping they realize that Bachmeier's not it. They just hand it off to Claiborne, and we're looking at a much better situation on offense there. Could
be. Yeah, I mean, that staff, they don't typically like to hand off. I mean, I remember when like Kenneth Walker was there and he ended up basically transferring out because he just wanted to be, the guy somewhere.
Oh, no, for sure.
Even when Walker was there, he still had like a pretty good season. Even though they didn't give him the ball 20 times consistently, he had like enough good games to where, justify the roster spot. So maybe something similar happens with Claiborne. Again, we're talking 22nd round. I mean, you take what you can get, right? So.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, for sure. I'm trying to look at quarterback a little bit. Again, I got 2 more quarterback spots I want to fill, so I'm gonna see if I can grab some decent upside guys there that I'd be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
But not a ton that I'm like loving.
Yeah, I like the Rodney Hammond pick there in the 22nd as well.
Hey, that's a
Talk
good
about a
potential
quick
bounce back pick there. But
Yeah.
God, what's the FCS player's name they brought in? They apparently like quite a bit. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
I don't know.
It's getting late. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Sure.
What's a couple picks you like besides Rodney Hammond there?
I don't mind Will Shepherd there at 22. That you mentioned you were taking Carnell Tate at 5 at the beginning of the draft season. I was taking Shepherd, or at least I think it was only in one draft, but I took him. I think it was like the 7th or 8th round in one draft. Obviously, his ADP has fallen, but I think in the 22nd round, I mean that's you might as well take a shot. You want to take a piece of that Colorado offense. I think that's a good pick. I like the Clark pick as well. Bainbridge, of course, obviously knows what he's doing with this draft as well. Okay, my pick is up here, so
I can't find the guy now. What? I'm like losing my mind over here. Anybody in the chat can help me out? I can't remember what this running back's name is that came up from the FCS and is going to Pitt now. Desmond Reed. That's where it is. Yeah, he came up from Weber State or Western Carolina. Excuse me. Wrong W school. Thank you, Clint. You're right on time, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, Clint. Yeah, Desmond Reed. That's a guy that they seem to like over there at Pitt. Again, I think it's probably going to be committee again this year. I'm not investing too much in Pitt after last year's fiasco. I still can't believe they did that, man. That offense was not good, and they just refused to give Hammond the ball more. I don't get it.
sometimes they would, and then sometimes they wouldn't. So I don't know what was going to happen there, but I guess is it a new OC who's there, and he came from Western Carolina, and that's why they brought, because I know they got a wide receiver as well from Western Carolina. So I think that's the case. So I don't really know. I don't really know what to expect from that offense.
All right, got a lot of people coming off the board here. Dwight taking Justice Ross Simmons. I personally don't love that pick because I don't think Ross breaks it into the starting wide receiver lineup for Syracuse this year. They seem to have their guys pretty set between Haynes, Pena, Mari Hatcher, and Aronda Gadsden, obviously, as well. I think it's going to be hard for him to break into that rotation. Bane, what am I talking about? God, it's getting late. I should have had some tea before I did this. Ben asked, what do we think about Vanderbilt? Is there anybody there you're looking at? I mean, Diego Pavia honestly sounds pretty solid over there. Again, there's been some pretty rave reviews. Again, he didn't come in until later, but like they are like Clark Lee's been talking about how he just seems different compared to a lot of the guys there. I still like Cedric Baxter. They also bring in the true freshman this year, Johan Cardenas. Could be an interesting backfield situation there. We'll see how that kind of breaks down. At the end of the day, I think Vanderbilt's kind of similar to how I feel about BYU, where I just don't know they're going to be good enough to really score enough to make them worth it in CFF drafts. Especially, again, they lost almost everybody over the last couple of years that made that offense worth investing into. Guys like Will Shepherd, like Jaden McGowan, like London Humphreys. Like, they're all gone, man. And AJ Swan left as well. Like, they all left for a reason. They all saw the writing on the wall and said, this program's not going anywhere. So, your thoughts, Justin?
Well, yeah, no, and I hear where you're coming from. I mean, Vanderbilt, though, sneakily has had some really good CFF players throughout the years. I mean, they had Ray Davis, who was good there. They had Keyshawn Vaughn at running back, who had 2 1,000-yard seasons, at least one, but I think it was 2. And they've had some good wide receivers come through there, too. More so, their production is a little more imbalanced, whereas like September is usually pretty good. Will Shepherd, we called him Mr. September last year for a reason. He had a great September. After that sort of fell off. But you mentioned the wide receivers, and that room cleared out, and I think that could actually be the catalyst for creating some value for somebody. Junior Sherrill was a freshman last year who kind of got overshadowed by London Humphreys, but he had a couple of good games, and he was mentioned by a beat writer somewhere that I saw this offseason as this beat writer's opinion, the best returning wide receiver on the team. He could be a guy where, he's, sort of the beneficiary of a lot of those offloaded targets, maybe a Mr. September candidate. You never know. I like the Winston Wright pick as well.
Thank you. Again, it's hard to find guys this late in the draft that you're pretty confident are going to be the number one wide receivers for their teams. And the beat writers have been all very consistent. I like Chase Sewell to start the offseason, man, but like it's been beat writer after beat writer for East Carolina saying that Winston Wright's really stepped up he should be the top guy for whoever wins that quarterback battle between Caden Hauser or Jake Garcia, which it sounds like Hauser's in the slight lead right now. Again, that might be just me wish casting a little bit because I did just trade for Caden Hauser in Nate's Dynasty League, but at the same time, like, it seems like things are kind of leaning towards that direction a little bit. I'm trying to decide, do I want to take my last tight end here, or do I want to keep my wide receiver run going here? I guess really it depends on what Mike Bainbridge allows me to get here.
Doesn't it always?
It really does. Again, great pick by Mike there with Chris Bell. I think that's a phenomenal pick there in the 23rd round, especially considering where Lacey's gone. All right, Mike takes Benjamin Bromber, a great pick at tight end in terms of, like, you're talking about the tight end that led all freshmen at tight end in targets. I'm going to go with Dylan Goffney, a guy that I've written about, I've talked about recently a lot on CTN. The path to me is pretty clear right now for Goffney to take a pretty big step for Colorado State this next upcoming year. Obviously, Torrey Horton's still the guy, but with Jay Norvell, he always has two main options going at any given time. None of the tight ends are really that impressive to me right now. There's a transfer that just came in relatively recently that I need to go and check out. But even still, like, Goffney going into his second year there at Colorado State, I am anticipating big things for him. Because, again, they vacate, like, between Justice Ross Simmons, Louis Brown IV, and Dallin Holker, they vacate 240 targets. If Goffney can just get a quarter of those, it puts him at 100 targets on the year. And so, like, 100 target wide receiver this late in the draft, I'll take it. I will take it.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like the pick. I think that's another offense, actually. I think this offseason probably has gone under-discussed. I mean, I guess Torrey Horton returning sort of,
Simplifies it.
Yeah, but outside of him, though, I mean, like, I don't know, I haven't really heard too many people talk about the running back position. That tight end room, obviously they're losing Dallin Holker. You mentioned they have a transfer coming in. That should be a question mark. I actually have that earmarked down as an article topic. I just haven't really looked into it, done a deep dive. I figured somebody else would write about it. But yeah, I think that's another offense where probably people aren't talking or thinking about them enough this offseason.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find the tight end's name real quick. They had one transfer out. At least according to On3, it looks like they did not have a tight end transfer in. But I think again, On3 247 as best as they can, they still miss guys coming in and out, especially if they're coming out from the FCS level. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt on it. Again, there's some other interesting options at Colorado State, right? We got Armani Winfield, the guy that a lot of people liked at Baylor. He's coming over there now. Donovan Ali comes back. I just think that both those guys are on the outside. Torrey Horton's pretty much locked up the outside position there for the most part. They need a guy over the middle. Dylan Goffney's going to be him. Mike Bainbridge says Jackson Warren. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you. I was like, I know there is a guy coming in. Jackson Warren. Navarro College.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that.
Oh, that's why. He's a true freshman. He's a true freshman. That's why I wouldn't find him on the transfer portal spot. So if you're in a dynasty draft, like we are now, Justin, who's up next in our dynasty league?
Who's up next in our dynasty?
Yeah, between you and me, because one of us two is probably going to be drafting Jackson Warren.
Oh, yeah, probably. I didn't even know he was available in our draft.
Well, he's available because he's a true freshman.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, that's how it works, I guess. Yeah. Okay, I have 5 QBs now. Yes.
All right, you are taking Ashton Daniels at Stanford. Who else are you taking, looking at?
His name, I'm almost certain, hasn't been drafted in any of the drafts. Well, you've only hosted one, I guess, right? But probably not a name that people are thinking about a lot.
Okay.
Have you seen this player drafted before?
I have not seen him. Actually, no, I have in some other drafts. I know the name, obviously. He's a former Vanderbilt tight end there at Mississippi State. Why him over Seydou Traore? Seydou Traore is probably the name I've seen more people draft if they're taking a shot at Mississippi State. What do you like about Justin Ball?
I like that he scored multiple times in the spring game. That's kind of he popped off in their latest spring game, and to me, I know Traore. I've actually drafted Traore as well in a few best ball drafts, but I don't know. I mean, ball like I don't really know what's going on with Traore. Obviously, he missed last year. I believe he's back this year, but I like that ball sort of popped in the spring game. He's a transfer. The new staff there, Jeff Levy, the head coach. I mean, they've used tight ends in the past. I don't know. At this range, 25, I'm just gonna take a shot and maybe create a little discussion as well in the chat. Why not? So.
I mean, Ben is definitely talking about it in the chat because he wants to say that you are wrong that Ben drafted Justin Ball last week in our draft. So good on you, Ben. Good on you, man.
All right. Well, that's too bad. But nonetheless, I think he's a player that a lot of people probably aren't talking about a lot.
All right, I'm on the clock in another draft, so I'm actually going to make that pick real quick, see what I can get. Oh, look at that. Amari Hayes, available in the 27th round. I'll take that.
Nice.
Luke, come on, man. I wanted Braylor found Nicolosi to pair with Goffney there, man. Like, y'all ain't letting me have nothing tonight. It is a hard life out here. I got to figure. You know what? I'll probably go ahead and draft my last quarterback here. Actually, I don't. Not my last quarterback. I still got 4. I still got 4 quarterbacks. So I need to draft 2 more probably. If I'm going to feel pretty good about myself. Although I do kind of like my room, right? Because I got Jefferson, Moss, Matera, Hoover. A lot of upside there. I'll probably draft 1 more. Oh, I should probably check my bye weeks. I have not been doing that, and I really should.
Yeah, that's probably going to kill me as well. I didn't pay attention to that.
Probably week 10 is the only thing I need to not do at wide receiver. Oop, I'm up on the clock. We'll go ahead and draft one of my quarterbacks here. Give me Tucker Gleason there at Toledo. Dual threat quarterback. We've seen what they can do with Daquan Finn. Yeah. That's about the extent of it right there. Again, he's a good dual threat quarterback here to draft in your last 5 rounds.
Yeah, not a bad idea. Again, swinging for the upside at that position makes sense to me.
So again, we're here now pretty much in the last 5 rounds, and Ryan asked us before, like, who are some of our favorite guys to hit in the last 5 rounds, and it's hard for me in this draft because so many of the guys I would like to take the shots on were taken early in this draft. Like Rodriguez Clark there at Southern Miss is a guy that I have drafted a ton of at the end of drafts. I've taken some shots on Cam Coleman, the wide receiver at Auburn, the true freshman there. I don't typically like drafting true freshmen, but he is a guy that I will typically go for. Another one here that I've taken some shots on, Nate Bennett, the wide receiver at San Diego State there. Between him and Louis Brown IV, I kind of go back and forth on which one I take the shots on at the end of drafts. I'm trying to think some other quarterbacks. Again, like Tucker Gleason's a guy that I'll take shots on. Among the guys still available, Sam Levitt at Arizona State is another one. Trying to think who else really that like in terms of guys that I always draft. Again, it's a little hard to say. Again, Syracuse I talked about earlier. They seem to have their guys set, and so like I've been taking shots on both Trevor Pena and Yazid Haynes. There, I'll probably draft one of those guys if you guys will let me here. And then there's a wide receiver still on the board that I cannot believe that I didn't see a second ago, and I probably should have drafted. And then tight end, right? There's a bunch of guys that like I'll take the shots on, like Skinner at Louisville, Andreas at Cal, guys like that. What about you, Justin? Who are some guys that like are still on the board that you're kind of looking at, or guys that you have a pretty good amount of shares of so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak too much because my turn is coming up here. I mean, some of them that have been taken, like Landon Sides, I like that pick. Some other guys though, Kobe Pace for Virginia, he's a running back potentially. You know, he's worth a shot. I will write about him at some point. You know, maybe one of the JMU guys. Cameron Ross is a name. He'll probably get selected now in a few picks. I don't know. Shaz Preston, he's a guy I wrote about. You know, he's one who's probably worth a shot in that range. Cam Fancher, FAU QB.
Oh yeah, good call.
He could get pretty fun during the season if that pans out. So yeah, I don't know. Those are a few names. Nick McMillan as well, Buffalo wide
Oh,
receiver.
great call. I completely forgot about Nick. That's a
I
great,
might
great
as well.
call.
That I said them, I might as well select them.
I'm a little bit deeper on my queue now, and I'm looking at some guys. Noah Rogers at NC State is another one that I've pretty consistently taken the shots on, because I do think that, again, if it's Robert Anae's system, he's going to have multiple wide receivers that he's going to want to get involved with. And Noah Rogers, honestly, again, might be... Again, Kevin Concepcion had a lot of manufactured touches last year, which is why he was so great for CFF. But if you're talking about just kind of pure wide receiver, down the field guy, Noah Rogers honestly might be better in that aspect than KC. And so, again, I wouldn't be shocked if Noah Rogers is close to KC's production. That's why I'm willing to take the shot on him here at the end of drafts. But also, again, he could end up being wide receiver 3, right? Where, Wesley Grimes pops up, or Justin Jolly, as you took early on. Like, he's just so good that he's just the number 2 guy that Grayson McCall goes to. That's why he's going as late as he is.
Yep. No, I like that pick as well. Since you mentioned him, I thought about, but I was like, no, that'd be too cheap. Just to select Noah Rogers right there. So I was like, I'll give it back to you. So.
Nah, I'm looking at. I got 2 more wide receivers to pick, and I'm kind of like looking at the guys. One guy I just feel like you have to take. I'm kind of surprised that he's made it this far. I actually like that Monterey Baldwin pick there by Luke. I think he's kind of an underrated guy at Baylor. I probably need to take a look a little bit more into exactly how much I project for him to kind of find a really good spot in my rankings for him. Same with J. Michael Sturdivant there at UCLA. I kind of got a guy that's kind of been forgotten, considering that last year he didn't live up to what we wanted to, but he's still probably the best wide receiver they have on that roster. And you got Deshaun Foster coming in as head coach. Maybe he throws it around a little bit more. Could be fun.
There is another guy at UCLA. He's got a weird name, but he was mentioned by the beat writers a bit this spring, as well as maybe being their top receiver. Titus, I think is his first name.
Titus Makiao-Timalala.
Yes, that guy.
I love him. I love him and his brother, because it forced me to learn how to pronounce names. Great pick by Mike there with Bryson Nesbitt. That's honestly an incredible 4th tight end pick. It was somebody I've been kind of eyeing for the last couple of rounds, but couldn't really pull the trigger for some reason. I guess I just wanted to load up on wide receivers right now.
Well, and you already have. Okay, yeah, you have 3 tight ends. So.
Yeah, I have 3 tight ends. I could take one more, and I got 2 more guys that one of them I'm pretty sure will come off the board here at some point in the last couple of rounds. If not, I'll be shocked. Now I got to decide who I'm going to take with my last. Who am I going to take with my last wide receiver? You know what? Maybe I stick with 5 wide receivers or 5 quarterbacks. Roll the dice on that. Let me double check my bye weeks to make sure I'm not screwing myself by doing that. Nope, we seem pretty good to go there. So I'm going to go ahead and take. I'll go ahead and take Noah Rogers, and we'll see. Again, I got 4 guys left in my queue. I'm pretty sure at least 3 out of the 4 will make it back to me. And there goes Cam Coleman. I was just talking about him. Again, good pick there in the last 28th round.
Yep.
Still waiting on those top 5. That you can wait till round 30. I mean, again, Ryan, I'm giving you guys like Yazid Haynes. I'm giving you guys like again, Micah Davis now can go round 30 plus. Kobe Prentice is a guy that I think surprised me that more people don't take the shot on him, and that you can get pretty consistently round 30. Cam Porter, Ethan just took him there. We talked about him earlier. He's probably a guy that I might take a few more shots on round 30, considering how much running back dries up. Quarterback, I've seen Ethan Vasco survive to round 30 quite a bit. Sam Levitt, Will Rogers, Brock Vandegrift at Kentucky. Baylor, Ben, why are you telling me come on, man? Why are you telling me come on, man? You're disappointed with me?
So he wants round 30 plus type players.
Yeah, Ryan's asking like top 5 guys. No, wait, no, Ben, I said Kobe Prentice, not Kobe Pace. Kobe Pace is who Justin was talking about. I'm not touching a Virginia running back right now. Maybe when Justin writes the article, he'll convince me. But for right now, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Ooh, Damian Taylor pick. Love that pick by Purple Rain there. That's a That's another guy I need to actually. He's in my rankings on Campus again. I just haven't added him to my rankings on Fantrax, so I keep forgetting to go after him. But Justin, again, your picks here now. Not your last 2 picks, but who are you looking at?
I'm just gonna take another tight end there, and then there's a bunch of players that I would like, but I can only choose one. Yeah, maybe I'll take this guy.
Okay,
Because I,
dipping
because I
back,
mentioned-
dipping back
well,
into UTEP.
yeah, well, because I mentioned them earlier, it's only right. And Jaden Smith, Eastern Kentucky transfer, he was pretty productive last year in the FCS. Beat writers, well, shout out to the G5 Hive. I listened to their video with their interview with somebody from UTEP, can't remember who, and he mentioned Jaden Smith multiple times as being a guy who really stood out this spring. So I figure why not take a shot?
G5 Hive there in the chat. To answer your question, I do believe that Sam Olsen did commit to Arizona. Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
So he'll be back reunited with Brent Brennan over there.
Yes.
So I can see why that Justin took him there at the 28th round.
Well, he had like his last 2 games of the season. Again, he's playing under the same staff now, right? At Arizona, he followed those guys over. His last 2 games of the season were pretty nice. He had another good game earlier in the season. I don't know. Tight end's a crapshoot. So I wanted another one. Figured why not?
Why not? Between my 2 tight end picks I have on my board here, I'm either going to go Homer or I'm going to go I'm going to go with a guy that I cannot let go. I'll probably go with the guy that I cannot let go because again, screw it. It's the fourth tight end off the board, and and it was a nice spot last year. Hopefully he does well this year. We'll see.
It's another placeholder. I think was just drafted.
Let's see who else we got going on here. All right. Last 2 rounds. We're almost there. I should have drank some tea before I did this. I'm going down a little bit. I will not lie.
Well, whatever. Yeah, we're at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been going to bed recently, like early recently. I don't know. Like I've been getting like super tired around like 11 o'clock every single night and just falling asleep.
Getting old, Jared.
I know. I hate it. I'm like complaining about teenage workers now. I went to a water park the other weekend during Memorial Day weekend. The whole place is run by teenagers, and I'm just like, you guys are so incompetent and young, and can't do anything.
Yeah, you're yelling from your lawn. You know that you're becoming the meme here, Jared.
I am becoming the meme here. So, all right, coming back here, a couple of interesting picks there again. Some shots on the air. I think that must be the Air Force quarterback that Purple Rain was wanting to draft at one point.
I think it's a placeholder, right? In the chat here, no placeholder. Oh no, never mind. Sorry, my bad.
No placeholder needed for Conley. No. Okay, let's see. Micah Hudson, again, if you're going to take a shot on a freshman wide receiver, he's another guy that I'd be pretty okay with. I don't get, like, Coleman and Hudson are 2 guys that are very close, in my opinion, to, like, Jeremiah Smith in, like, dynasty rankings and everything like that. I don't get why. Well, you took the choice away from me there by taking Oscar Delp. I don't get why Jeremiah Smith in redraft gets taken so much earlier than both Coleman and Hudson. I think honestly Coleman and Hudson are more intriguing from a CFF perspective, like redraft perspective, than Jeremiah Smith. I get Smith is just a beast, but like so is Hudson and Coleman. They're both great wide receivers, and they have much easier rooms to navigate through. So
yeah, I'm just gonna say they're in better situations. You know, especially Hudson, I would say, because not only does he have the path to early playing time, but it is a good system. Coleman has the path to early playing time. The system is fine, but not amazing. So yeah, well, I'm intrigued about Hudson as well. Ooh, Michael Trigg.
I can't let him go. I can't let him go.
Once one of your favorite players, I believe.
Yeah, he's still in my heart. And if I can get him 29th round, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Oh God, dang, Mike.
I remember
Voisin's a good pick. I need to like another guy that I need to figure out where I'm putting him in my rankings. Ben, did I do well, Ben, by picking Michael Trigg? Is he because Ben's our local Baylor expert, so he's been warding everybody off of Pendergrass at running back. He thinks that Reese is going to make a comeback this year. But did I do good, Ben, by taking Michael Trigg? Is that a good pick, or am I just completely nuts and I am a star-crossed lover that refuses to let go? Please let me know, Ben.
Does it get Ben's approval? Yeah, that's the important question.
I agree. For a Baylor player, I'll always take Ben's approval. All right, I'm going to take one of my Syracuse wide receivers. I got more Yazid Haynes, so I'm going to take Trevor Pena for Syracuse there. Again, he'll play in the slot opposite of Rondé Gadsden, and he probably should get the most targets, honestly, potentially in that wide receiver room. Because, again, when Kyle McCord was asked, like, which receivers do you have the most chemistry with, his two answers were Yazid Haynes and Trevor Pena. And so, like, again, Rondé Gadsden coming back from health, we'll see how that kind of plays out over the next couple of months, obviously. But, like, Pena and Haynes are two, or I keep saying Pena and Haynes. Again, Brian, you're talking about guys that are getting drafted round 30 plus. They're always available, and I'll keep taking shots over there. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree with this offense, but there's just some offenses that you kind of can't let go each year. But you ever have that, Justin, where you have like offenses that you just kind of can't stop investing in? You can't really explain why.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's hard overhead, and I like that pick because I've actually never heard of Pena. Like, I've not seen him before, did not know who that was before you mentioned him. So I always like to learn something new every draft. I hope that there's at least one name that sort of pops that I didn't know about. I do see a message in the chat here. Looks like Purple Rain had a placeholder after all for that pick. I think he drafted tight end Conley, Marshall tight end, I think.
Oh, there we go. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you wanted, Purple Rain? Why does he keep drafting Air Force quarterbacks for his placeholders? Or every time he asks us to replace a pick, it's always an Air Force quarterback he needs us to replace.
Probably just by alphabetical order. It might be the top of the queue. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Also, Purple Rain, please. I don't look at the Fantrax chat very often during these streams, so if you got something you need me to do, like, go to the YouTube chat. I'll see it much easier there. I appreciate Justin for keeping an eye on that chat, because otherwise I would have completely missed it.
So many chats, right? Try to keep up, like the draft, the chat, the stream. It's just so many different.
Ben's pointing out that Baylor didn't have a spring game this year, so Michael Trigg can't possibly do his annual big spring game and then curse himself for the rest of the season. All right, Justin, Mr. Irrelevant, who's it gonna be?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different players that I can pick here. Let me just take one last look at how many do I have of each position? This is fine, I think.
All right, take a tight end or wide receiver. What was that? Cameron Ross at James Madison. What do you like about him? That's a name that I haven't heard much about.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, he actually had a good season as a freshman way back in 2019 with UConn. And then he kind of disappeared for a few years. And he had an okay season last year. Transfers to James Madison, new staff, basically all new names, new offense kind of thing. And, the spring game, from what I read from beat writers, Ross and Dylan Morris had a good connection. Morris seemed to be targeting him a lot. So
okay.
Well, we'll see what happens there. They need a guy to step up this year, right? They lost a lot of players on offense, so we'll see.
And we know for a fact that the Bob Chesney, the head coach they brought in last couple of years, again, they don't pass a ton, but man, when they find that one guy on the outside they like, it's hard not to try to invest in that system. And if Cam Ross looks like that guy, honestly, great pick there at the 30th round there. Justin, we got a little bit of time here, so I think that we can kind of run through our teams real quick, and then I'll probably pick out one team that I like quite a bit, and then you can find one team that you like quite a bit, and we can shout out to those guys. But your team real quick, Justin, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel okay about it. I mean, I like the start. It's a pretty typical start for anybody who's drafted with me, Those top three running backs, I was happy to get all three of them. I'd say the next sort of picks between like 4 and 10, there's a bunch of players there where the ADP, probably the value wasn't great, but I do like those players still. Probably could have done a little bit better at QB. Not thrilled at that position, but it is what it is. Overall, I feel okay about my team. How about you?
This is probably one of my least favorite drafts I've done this year. Again, like when you're next to guys like Mike Bainbridge, Clint Carlson, even Awood, and Ethan being right there before me. Again, it's a tough group to kind of get through. They don't let much value fall to you here. I took a lot more upside guys than I typically wanted to. I'd say, again, it's one of those drafts where I'm going to either come back and I'm going to be in 11th, 12th place, or I'm going to surprisingly be in first, second place. I don't think there's really be much in between with this team. But honestly, like you said earlier, that's kind of what you have to do in some of these best ball drafts. I think I probably, given how running back felt to me later, I probably would have gone it a little bit heavier, especially in the first couple of rounds. Like I probably would have felt a little bit better if I had like a Jaden Ott, if I was able to grow a pair and take a Mario Anderson there at the third round. Again, there wasn't really much on that 3-4 turn that I was loving too much, but even so, I feel like I could have done better. I feel like I could have planned out a little better. I think part of it is that, as Mike Bainbridge puts in the chat, I have not had my beauty sleep, especially as I was getting there near the end. And so, probably not my best draft. Hopefully, I'm going to do a little bit better next week. Maybe I stick to the early running back strategy a little bit more, like I said at the beginning of the draft, rather than trying to go best player available like I did with Ashlock and Pauling. But, I love those guys, so I'm not going to complain too much.
Yeah, and you have to be flexible based on like what is happening on the board too,
right?
For
sure.
The question came up earlier, like, if that's the strategy that you use and Jared used, like why doesn't everybody, go heavy running back early? I mean, there isn't enough good running backs for everybody to take 3 straight, right? Like the value won't be there. So not everybody can do that. You have to sort of work with how the board shakes out. So
all right. I'm going to pick one team that I'm going to shout out here, and again, I've been giving them praise all night long, but I'm going to keep giving it here. But Mike Bainbridge's draft here, I think, is probably my favorite. I don't love the Trey Harris pick there at 4-2. I do think Antoine Wells and Jordan Watkins are going to play quite a bit of factor there. He benefited greatly from a strong early season there before he kind of got hurt and everything. Could have had a really good season towards the end of the year, but I think there's too many mouths to feed, a little bit of Ole Miss for him to be worth a 4th round pick. But man, Giddens, Maffa, Anderson, love that start. Iamalieva, Arnold, great back-to-back picks in the 5th, 6th round there. Keithy, great value there on that tight end run early on. This run of wide receivers, that Boston pick, again, 10th round, I think it's getting a little early for me, but again, like I don't hate it. I think Boston is a guy that could absolutely go off. You guys know how much I love Josh Meredith there. Will Howard, a guy that was typically going in like the 7th, 8th round earlier in the offseason, now in the 16th round. Like, guys, this is Chip Kelly's quarterback still, right? Like, think of your DTRs and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I know we're afraid of his passing ability, but like he should still be fine for the most part. McEwen and Mario Williams, great picks there in the 17th and 19th round, respectively. Carson, Rodriguez, Clark. I again, overall, man, like, I'm thinking like, again, Roderick Robinson as well, another guy that's very similar to like a John Bray Dubar, right? Where if Trevor Etienne goes down, I don't see how Georgia doesn't give Robinson 20 plus touches every single game. Devin Voisin, we could possibly be drafting the wrong wide receiver at South Alabama, and he could be on a bounce back year. Love Mike's draft overall. I might honestly study this a little bit, trying to find some of these values, because Mike did a great job here.
Yeah, I would agree. I love his last 2 picks, Voisin and Barnes there. I think great value there, and yeah, I think he did a good job of covering his draft. I expected him to have a really good draft. There's a few other drafts that I like as well. I like Point M's draft. I wish we didn't have to take Monangai in the 3rd these days, but I guess that's what the price is. I like Monangai. I like his start there with Burden and White. Even though that's sort of the antithesis of what I generally do but starting with 2 wide receivers there, I think I like both of those players. Avery Johnson the 7th, like him at QB. Rayner as well at 9. I mean, that's another high upside pick. I like the positional sort of versatility of Jamal Haynes. I guess he hasn't been converted down yet from Fantrax, so he still has that running back wide receiver eligibility. And if he's RB1 there, it's not really a system that gives a lot of carries historically, but I mean, he had some pretty good volume there. And he'll probably have some really good games. So I like that pick. Higgins as well, 11. That's a good pick. Iowa State. I feel like that pass offense probably will be pretty productive this year. Love the Haas pick as well at tight end. Jalen Daniels an interesting one because it's like, well, when he is healthy, he's really good. Question with him is like, is he ever going to get right? But if he is healthy, like that's a great value at 14 in terms of quarterback position. I like that he doubled up actually with Iowa State. Well, he tripled up. He didn't just get Higgins; he also got Noel and got the quarterback. So he basically monopolized that entire pass offense.
So that's the Felix strategy,
Nice.
right there.
Yeah, boxed everybody out. That's cool. And they did the same thing with Notre Dame. So
Evans, Love, and Price. Just grab the three guys that you kind of want there.
yeah, no, I like it. And then EJ Warner, Rice QB. Why not at 21? I mentioned Hammond earlier, could be a bounce back guy. Antonio Williams, Digest as well. He's another one. He's dual eligible, potentially interesting guy, tight end. So, yeah, I like that draft. I like a lot of the drafts. I mean, I thought it was a good group that we had here. So,
No, as I kind of mentioned before, like when we were in round 21, I felt like we were already in round 25, given some of the guys that were still left on the board. I was actually having to dig a little bit deeper into my rankings than I was typically used to. Speaking of Justin, real quick before we get out of here, again, looking at rankings and stuff like that, is there anybody that you're kind of surprised still on the board at quarterback? I got three names here. Malachi Nelson, probably the first time I've seen him go 30 rounds without being undrafted. I think the luster's kind of, the shine's kind of coming off on him a little bit. Again, obviously it's still nice to see a former 5-star down at the G5 level, but people I think are still kind of coming around to the idea that Boise State's going to still run the ball a heck of a lot. There's no reason not to when you have a backfield as good as they do. And they're going to be able to ground and pound most of the teams that they're in. Yeah, they have some decent wide receivers, but let's actually break down that room, right? You got Prince Strong, who I think is the most reliable of the bunch, but he's a true freshman last year. We'll see how much he bounces or he kind of steps forward in his second year. You get Chris Marshall, who's been kicked off the last two teams that he's been on. You got Cam Camper, who hasn't had a healthy season in 2 seasons, right? And then Lachelle Capos, who's also had his own health problems. So, yes, they have a lot of intriguing pieces at wide receiver, but man, nothing feels super reliable there. Their rushing attack is so much more reliable. I kind of get why Nelson's starting to really kind of fall down quite a bit of draft boards. Sam Levitt, another guy. Again, Kenny Dillingham's quarterback one. Kind of surprised nobody took the shot there. And then Will Rogers at Washington. Yeah. That's gonna be a bad team. And guess what? You know what bad teams do? They have to pass a lot because they're going to be behind a lot. Now, the scoring opportunities might be limited a little bit, but even still, Rodgers comes from an air raid system. He is totally fine with passing the ball 30, 40 times a game. So I think that those are three that kind of surprised me. What about you, Justin? Quarterbacks that surprise you?
Well, yeah, you mentioned Will Rogers. That one was surprising. I thought about drafting him at one point. Gavin Bartholomew, tight end. Of all the tight ends that were drafted, I expected that he would get drafted. He didn't. Who else? I guess Kobe Pace. I mentioned him before. He potentially a high upside guy in that offense. Courtney Jackson, wide receiver, Arkansas State. So I see a lot of people draft Jalen Rayner, and if he's going to throw a lot of touchdown passes this year, you sort of want to think okay, well, who's he going to be throwing to? Courtney Jackson. I think he's their lead returning receiver. Had some good games last year. I mean, he was more of a steady guy rather than an upside guy. So maybe in the best ball, he's not the best type of wide receiver. But I am surprised that nobody took a shot with him. Those are a few names. I mean, there's some other guys, but
Heath Boyd points out that Tommy Ulatowski or Cade McConnell did not come off the board, and that's a little bit of an inside joke there. Those are two guys that we were discussing over lunch the other day. So that was about who would actually be a better pick in CFF Draft, because that's how deep one of our dynasty leagues went, was that we were actually debating who of those two would be a better pick between the two of them. I didn't talk about running backs, wide receiver. Freddie Brock went 30 rounds without being undrafted. Usually I see at least one person take the shot there. Otherwise, running back completely dried up, in my opinion. Usually get a Michigan fan, one or two that'll take a shot on Kalel Mullings, maybe, but otherwise, nobody really surprising there. At wide receiver, Michael Matheson at Western Kentucky is a guy that I've seen a couple people taking late in drafts, but he kind of stayed on there. Carlos Hernandez, another Washington State wide receiver I like, but when he's potentially the fourth option on that passing offense, I totally get why you would kind of drop him back a little bit. Chase Sewell, Micah Davis, Xavier Thomas, Kobe Prentice, a lot of wide receiver twos that I typically see people take the shots on, but kind of made it through this draft. And then at tight end, nobody really that I'm like shocked by. Oscar Delp almost made it to the very end. He probably would have been somebody that I would have called out had he made it. Also, great pick by pointing on there at 30th round with Alex Bowman. I like that pick. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Justin, again, appreciate you coming on. Appreciate all of you guys there in the chat. I know my energy kind of got a little bit low here at the end. I'll try to be better about it next week. But Justin, it's been fantastic. I hope you had a great weekend with all of your food. Felix estimates that you gained potentially about 15 pounds this weekend with all of that food.
It's the camera. The camera adds 15 pounds. So if I'm looking chubbier on camera, that's what it is, Felix. So
I believe it 100%. But again, all of you guys who are in the chat, appreciate those of you who were chatting with us tonight. A lot of great discussion throughout the show today. We'll be back next week. I will go ahead and I won't announce who I have coming on, but I will announce that we are doing a Power 4 only best ball draft next week. So we thought we were getting into it deep this week. We're going to really get into it next week with how deep we're going to have to go with basically half the player pool, but we're still going 30 rounds, so it's going to be a ton of fun next week. If you want to be involved in this, please go ahead and let me know. For those of you who participated this week, unfortunately, you will not be banned from joining us next week, but you will be put on a wait list, and anybody who is not participating this week will be given priority over you. But if you are somebody listening to this for the first time and you want to get involved, DM me on Twitter. I'm at CFF_Jared. I will get you involved in this in the future. With all that being said, really appreciate all of you guys coming on and joining us once again. Justin, you always got articles coming out. Do you want to give anybody a teaser of what you're working on?
Oh, yeah, I don't even, well, I have quite a few in inventory. I actually don't want to say because we are in another draft, a dynasty draft. And as I mentioned in the chat, I have quite a few that I'm withholding until we finish that draft. So there will be articles this week. I don't want to say who, but I will say thanks again for having me on, Jared. This was a blast. Always appreciate coming on. Hope to come on again at some point in the season. And yeah, no, thanks again.
It's going to be hard not to have you on, man. You're super smart. Your ability to break down different players that people have never heard of. Again, it's a meme at this point in the CFF community. When you see somebody coming off the board in a draft, you're like, oh, that's a VP special right there. And so it's always great to have you on, Justin. Love having you on. Again, appreciate all of you guys out there. We're headed out. Until then, y'all have a wonderful and blessed week, and see you guys next Sunday. See ya.